Agendas are located at the back of the chambers on the bookcases. First, we'll have a moment of silent reflection and then the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alex Purcell. Thank you.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're on your A game today.
Next, we have the review and approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Are we removing item 7?
Yep.
16?
16. Do we need to remove item 16, Mr. Schock? On the agenda review?
Yes, Mark Schock, Pennington County Highway. We'd like to remove number 16 from the agenda.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the agenda, leaving out item 16.
Thank you, Mr. Buskerud. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is Pennington County Employee Service Recognition Awards. And Mr. Buskerud, if you do the honor for us.
Thank you. Every year about this time, South Dakota Association of County Commission has a convention this year in Rapid City, and they give out various awards that have been applied for and approved through various departments of the county commission. So we will start, I guess, by our Loss Control Safety Achievement Awards, which are given to various departments in the county for not having any serious mishaps during a year. And some of these departments, and I don't have it here, but they're both at the gold level, which means they've been through for at least 4 or 5 years without serious injuries. And one is the Pennington County Buildings and Grounds, which gets one, frankly, every year. There we go. And they've gotten the plaque already many years ago, so all they get now is just a year to put on it.
Yeah.
Second one would go to the Pennington County Highway Department. Oh, then they already took the year and put it up. Thank you. Next would be awards for appreciation for years of service. We have 2 people, D. Ayers from CCADP for 25 years, and Carlos Colon, the Highway Department, 25 years. They couldn't be here today, but they will be getting their certificate of appreciation. First one goes to Robert Cheok, Pennington County Paralegal for 25 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
And the next one is, must have a system of very stout, because she has been a Pennington County E91 dispatcher for 25 years. Terry Callahan.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then another one for 25 years, Deborah Grody from the Pennington County CAMA specialist from IT, I take it.
Equalization. Yep. Good job, Dan.
Congratulations. Long time.
Thanks.
Good job.
And finally, our last certificate of appreciation for 30 years of service to our Pennington County Treasurer, Janet Saylor. And finally, we have a County Achievement Award. We apply for that, and as every other county that thinks they can deserve it throughout the state. And this is for the third year out of the last 7, Pennington County has won it. So I think we do a great job for that. And this year it goes to the Health and Human Services. Actually, it's Pennington County, but they control the Veterans Protocol Court. And that's what we won the award for. And accepting will be Barry Tice, and he'll tell us all about it. Say who really deserves it.
And I don't have a 27-point PowerPoint presentation like the sheriff usually asks me to provide, but, so just a couple of words about this is Pennington County Health and Human Services back in 2012 had a veterans service officer who was very proactive in our community, had identified an increase in veterans within our county jail. Shortly after that time, we hired a veteran service officer by the name of Alex Purcell, and Alex was tasked with the duty of starting to put together the pieces of Veterans Court into our community. Over the past 4 years, and there's a number of folks sitting in the crowd, Richard Sixtos being one of them, in these monthly meetings, every single month at Health and Human Services, we've had meetings to discuss how we were going to pull this thing together. And I shouldn't be up here speaking this entire time, so I'll cut it short, but I'm very proud of our office and our veteran service officer, Alex Purcell, for helping with this, but a number of other individuals, including Andy Enders from Court Services, and really the individual who has led this charge and recognized for the state's West River's first Veterans Court, but the state's third Veterans Court, Todd Hieronymus, and it's really cool. It does wonderful things for Pennington County and Health and Human Services. Really on the forefront of this project, but it's one of those awesome community collaborations, and we couldn't have done it. I'm going to hand the award off to Judge Hieronymus and let him say a few words.
My name is Todd Hieronymus. I'm a magistrate judge here, and I preside over the Veterans Court. While I preside over it, I certainly could not do this by myself. I have the most amazing team of about 12 people that help me do this. And I'm not a veteran myself, but I'm very fortunate to have about 124 years of military experience on this team that helps me better understand how to work with our veterans who are involved in the criminal justice system. Some of our team members are here today. I'd also like to thank, we have a mentor here. We have mentors that volunteer 100% of their time to be battle buddies for our veterans. And it's a huge honor to receive this. We don't receive any specialized funding for this program. We do the best with what we have, and to be honored for that, and to be recognized for that is just so special, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, the rest of the team should stand up and be recognized.
On the Veterans Court. Good job, everyone. We appreciate all the employees of Pennington County, and when we have ones that have recognitions for 25 and 30 years, I think that's pretty awesome. The other with the Veterans Court, I have visited the Veterans Court, and what a good team of people, as Mr. Hieronymus said, people that volunteer their time and effort to help our people that fought and for our country, and now we're trying to make them a better life and a better way of how we do and process them through our system that's positive. So I think that's pretty awesome. So thank you for all you do. Board, anyone else want to speak on the awards or the achievement from Health and Human Services? Okay, if not, let's move forward on the consent calendar. Ms. Hawley, the consent agenda, 8 through 10.
Good morning, Commissioners. Holly Hennies, Commission Office Manager. For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the Board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items: approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of September 21st, 2017, authorization to cancel the list of outstanding checks over 1 year old and remit funds totaling $3,500.77 to the Office of the State Treasurer as required by SDCL 43-41B-20 as submitted by the Auditor's Office. And finally, number 10 is to schedule a public hearing at 9:15 a.m. on October 17th, 2007 for Budget Supplement SP 17-011 for the Accumulated Building Fund for the James Kerstad Event Center addition.
Thank you, Ms. Hawley. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on the consent agenda 8 through 10? If not, anyone from the commission like to pull any items 8 through 10 from the consent agenda?
Number 9, please.
Number 9? If not, do we have a motion with the exception of number 9?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner DeSanto, second by Commissioner LaCroy. With the exception of number 9. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, Mr. Buskerud.
I just want to, once again, as I do every year at this time, give my complaint that we write checks during the years, and if they're not cashed, we have to send that money to the state of South Dakota instead of keeping it. It's our money, so people out there, and some of the checks are pretty small. A lot of them, I think, are from jury service. And, you know, those people who don't cash those checks think, well, I'll just not cash this $10, $20, $30 check and let's stay in the county. Wrong. The state wants that money. And we have to send them the check every year for that. And I think it's a shame. Just another way that the state robs counties.
Any other discussion on number 9?
Madam Chair,
Sir, Mr. DeSanto.
record, I'm on the same page as Ron.
Thank you, Mr. DeSanto. Any other discussion? All in favor of number 9, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion, don't we? Oh, yeah, we do.
I'm sorry. Motion, thank you.
Move for approval.
Moved on by Commissioner LaCroy on number 9 on the consent agenda. DeSanto, did you second that?
Sure,
Thank
I'll
you, sir.
second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Mr. LaCroy, for your help. Next, we're on the regular agenda items, 11 through 17. First would be number 11, consideration of Pennington County Treasurer's Wall Office. Ms. Saylor, please. Sir, you look like Miss Saylor.
Taylor, yeah.
Your name, sir?
Marty Heather, I'm mayor of Wall.
Thank you, sir.
And I guess I just open up, if you have any questions this time, I know, appreciate Commissioner DeSanto coming down last week to our meeting we had, and I spoke last time too and had some numbers. I have a couple other people here that are more well-versed in some numbers than I am. I'd bring up if you desire, but I guess I'm not sure what direction we're gonna go with this point in time.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I think it'd be excellent if Cheyenne presented the numbers that you guys came up with the other night.
Thank you.
We'll get to Kim too.
Your name, ma'am?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Cheyenne McGriff. I am the Executive Director of the Wall Economic Development Corporation. And as Mayor Heather said, we had the great opportunity to have Commissioner DeSanto at our board meeting the other night to discuss the Wall Satellite Office. We had about 51 community members attend, all for keeping the office open. I have several reasons listed, but you may get to them later as well. we had one of our community members put together a map. It's not the fanciest, but Marty has a fancy one here. And he had drawn a line, may not be exactly where Eastern Pennington County is defined, but kind of where he had thought it might be around the Wasta area. And in that area, there are about 46 to 47 townships. There are 36 sections of land in a township and 640 acres in a section. So about 23,040 acres in each township. And just kind of some rough math on that, that puts about 600,000 acres in the eastern side of Pennington County, and then about 460,800 in the western side, which we know we're a little bit less populated than the western side of Pennington County, but we have a pretty wide area in eastern Pennington. People that have to travel not only an hour to get to Wall, but maybe 2 to get to Rapid City. A lot of them are farmers and ranchers that have to take maybe a whole entire day out of their day to travel to Rapid City to take care of business. And I would be happy to list some of the things that community members brought to us at the meeting, unless, Commissioner, you were...
Go ahead.
Okay. Some of the people that stood up and spoke to us mentioned the following items. One gentleman mentioned that there needs to be more set hours to avoid confusion for people showing up. And I can let Kim talk more about Golden West if you would like to after I list a couple more here. There was one woman who has several small children, and she says she doesn't travel to Rapid City unless she has to, and it's difficult to come to a busy place like this with her several small children. And small businesses that do title transfers, to go and do it in the Wall office is very convenient for getting their business done, but if something's wrong, he mentioned he can just run home, grab it, bring it back to the Wall office. But if he has to come to Rapid City, it's a whole another couple hours for him to take care of that. And I know we had discussion about ADA issues, but we do have several elderly people that use the facility, and it might be difficult for them to get transportation to Rapid to use the facility here. People do count on this service, and it can be hard for people to get a day or an afternoon or morning off of work to come to Rapid City to take care of it. So a lot of our community members did discuss that they would really appreciate keeping the Wall office open. And I can let Kim explain more about Golden West.
Well, there was a couple numbers that I threw out at the last meeting.
Ma'am, your name first?
Kim from Golden West.
Thanks.
Yep.
No last name?
Hancock.
Thank you, Ms. Kim.
We're a telephone industry. We're a telecommunication industry. We're from Del Rapids, Hartford, one side of the state, clear over to Edgemont, South Dakota. So we're a very large company, and we have around 310 fleet vehicles. That does include tractors, trailers, ATVs, but 180 of those are vehicles that we drive. Currently, I register them all in Pennington County. The reason I do that is out of convenience. All of them come here. They may go to Del Rapids for a year, but then they get shipped back to Pennington, or they're just shuffled around, so it's easier to do them here. And the convenience is because of the satellite office. I will guarantee if this closes, we will not be doing that any longer. We will be registering them in the appropriate counties that they're at each year, because it's no longer a convenience. So that was just one thing I pointed out. Another thing to mention, this year alone, we're gonna be spending about $600,000 on vehicles. All of that comes to Pennington. Last year was 850, the year before that was 700. So I think, something that was mentioned was the cost of having the satellite office open. You're gonna lose a lot more money by closing that satellite office, I guarantee it.
Thank you, Ms.
That's
Kim.
my 2 cents.
Sir, did you have something else to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna, since it was talked about, and probably the biggest concern even for us is when it was mentioned something about the ADA compliance. And I just wanted to let you know that did visit with the council on that, and we're committed to rectifying whatever issue there may be there. The polling has never taken place in that building. That was mentioned last time. It's always taken place in our community center, just right across the street. And we did remodel that this year and brought everything up to ADA compliance for that. So we're okay there. So it's a matter of that office, and actually with the sheriff's office that's there, Pennington County shares that with the satellite office. So we have a door that we probably have to widen a bit, and part of the issue was a garage that was attached. We're gonna get rid of the storage of that garage, close those garage doors up, and provide another access point in there if we need to, if it comes to that. So I think that's an easy fix for us.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner DeSanto, did you want the floor?
Yes, please. I would just like to comment, piggyback a little bit on what Cheyenne was talking about the inconvenience that we're gonna cause by shutting the office. After I went up to Wall and visited with the people up there, Wall's a community that has a tremendous number of senior citizens, and a lot of those seniors, they don't use the computer. They're not real computer savvy. They don't get around well, and to make a trip to Rapid City is difficult for them. So I'm concerned about the seniors and losing the convenience to those seniors. Also, as far as Golden West is concerned, I appreciate Kim stepping up and talking about how many vehicles she's registering with Pennington County, but we also have to keep in mind all of the farmers that are out there as well. And some of them, if you look at that map that Marty gave us, some of them live clear up in the very, very corner by Ziebach and Meade County. And if they've got that's almost an hour drive to Wall by itself. Many of these farmers and ranchers are registering multiple vehicles, including trailers and so forth. And so I believe that after going up there and listening to the residents speak, no doubt the amount of money the revenue that we bring in from the Wall area and surrounding area justifies keeping the office open. I also would like to point out that Wall is currently working very diligently at expanding business in Wall, expanding growth in Wall, bringing additional homes to Wall. All of these things are going to increase the amount of property taxes that we're able to get out of that area and that community. And they're investing their own money, the city's money, into this expansion project. And so I think that it would be a mistake to take this convenience away from them when they're working at trying to expand business and expand residences in the city of Wall, which will also benefit the Pennington County. So thank you, Deb.
Commissioner DeSanto. And remember, guys, there's two parts to this commission. We have the lease agreement that needs to be drawn out for the first motion, and the second is putting back in the funding, if that's what we're wanting to do and where that funding source would come from for that 7,013.
And I believe Julie pointed out that we could take that funding out of the contingency fund to put it back into Janet's budget.
Thank you. Ms. Janet?
Good morning, Janet Saylor, Pennington County Treasurer. Just for the record, I did not come here to close the Wall Satellite Office. The direction from the county commissioners was cut your budget and cut it for non-mandated things. I did that. I wasn't in attendance at the Wall Satellite Office, so there might have been some confusion down there, but I've gotten several phone calls, people approaching the window, trying to apply for a job in the Wall Satellite Office. I need to be very clear, there is no job opening in the Wall Satellite Office. That office, under law, is under my direction. If the employee from that office does not come from this office in Rapid City who is trained, that office will not exist. So that's by law. They're under me. So there is no opening in the Wall Satellite Office. Also, I had a gentleman here yesterday that stated that from the meeting that the office was going to be open 5 days a week. There is no reason to have that office open 5 days a week. I'm not going to pay somebody to sit down there and read a book for 7 people. I'm not saying close the Wall Satellite Office. Another remark was made that we need more set hours. Those hours are set and they are published. So everyone knows when the Wall Satellite Office is going to be open. We did have a problem there when the air conditioning went down. Our decal machine is controlled by heat and cold. And in order for it to work when it's 100 degrees in that office, the office had to close. And we had spoken to Wall on that. Another comment that was made was that Golden West would just take their business someplace else because they used the Wall Satellite Office. I can tell you, when Golden West renewed their vehicles, they did it via email. I'm the one that came in at 5 o'clock in the morning because Golden West was coming to Rapid for a meeting in Rapid City. They needed it done by a certain time so the gal could get the check cut. There was no way my staff could do it. I took it upon myself to do that. Another remark was made down there that they would just take their business to Kadoka. Well, they have to license in the county where they're in, and if they take their business to Kadoka, it's going to cost them more money. because they're gonna have to pay a wheel tax in Kadoka. They're gonna have to pay a wheel tax in Minnehaha County, because we don't have a wheel tax at this point. So we've been more than helpful when it comes to Golden West. Just because the office wasn't open, we went out of our way. I didn't pay any employee overtime. I came into the office at 5 so that I could meet the deadline that they requested. So I think that's an unfair statement on their part. Our lease agreement is up with the Wall Satellite Office. It hasn't been renewed for several years. I'm not opposed to renewing it. However, you need to know that if that Wall Satellite Office is going to be open, it has to be ADA compliant. Nick Stroot is our ADA officer. He can talk to you about that. Julie has said also, if it's not ADA compliant, Pennington County cannot even, excuse me, sign a lease agreement with them. So it's really in the commissioner's hands. If you want the office open, that's fine. It's closed in December. There's not enough business in December to warrant having that office open. It's open 2 days a month, unless there's bad weather. So I think it would be crazy to have that office open 5 days a week.
Thank you, Ms. Janet. Ms.
KJ Peterson,
KJ.
Deputy Auditor. I just wanted to remind the board that when you talk about the funding, you can make some decisions today, but this is 2018, so whatever decision, supplement, contingency, anything like that would actually need to come back in January and move the funding at that point. You can't supplement 2018 budget in 2017.
Okay, so when we get to January, we'll have Holly put down notes that if we're funding.
Whatever might result from that, we can make sure that it gets on the first few meetings of the year so that the funding is addressed.
Thank you, Ms. KJ.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner DeSanto.
Well, I'd like to point out to everybody that Janet, that is true. The commission did ask Janet to find cuts, and she did so. She did a good job. She did a lot of research, and I want to defend Janet as far as she hasn't done anything wrong, that's for sure. She's given us what we asked for. After visiting with the Wall folks, though, it just made sense to keep this Wall office open. Also, Janet, I wanted to ask you, the lease that we have, is it up this month? Is it up in January? When's it up?
It's been up a long time ago, years ago.
Oh.
We didn't even realize it.
It ended in 1995.
Yes.
Okay, so I guess the next question, what's the rush if it's been gone since 1995 that we need to get in a big hurry? I mean, we can give them time certainly to get it ADA compliant, I would imagine.
My understanding from Julie, and Nick, if you want to come up, is that in order that we have to sign a new lease because it has expired, nobody knew it had expired, but in order to sign the lease, it has to be ADA compliant. We have 2 more times down there in October, and we have 1 in November, and we're not open in December.
Right.
And they can put that as a stipulation of signing the lease, and then it's that easy that we can still do the lease with a stipulation that says this lease will be signed with it ADA compliant.
Very good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, also, I would also like to point out, at that Wall meeting, I didn't hear anybody say that the Wall office they wanted the Wall office open 5 days a week. That was never discussed. So things get twisted around a little bit.
Commissioner, that was from a patron from Wall that was here yesterday.
Okay.
In the office.
Okay. And then the last thing that I'd like to address is employment in Wall. It was suggested that, it wasn't said that there was an opening, it was suggested that maybe that could be a way to prevent somebody from having to travel from Rapid City, having to take the risk, us having to pay the hourly wages. I'd like to work on that between now and January and see if there's a way that maybe we can get somebody trained in this office from Wall that could work there.
You would have to hire somebody, and they would have to come to work in my office, because the problem is, I have a bond, Commissioner. The bond does not cover taxes. So why we pay a bond for the treasurer is beyond me. It only covers theft. But anything that's done wrong, I'm personally liable for.
I
So
understand.
to bring somebody down there, the gal that works in that office, the two gals, the one has been here over 11 years and the other one has been here 8. So they know the office inside and out. I don't know, quite frankly, Donna, are you here? I don't know if Donna would want to deputize somebody off the street that didn't know how her office works, because she's liable to run her office.
Right.
Why
And
do
I'm
we keep-
suggesting training. I'm not
Why do we
suggesting-
keep looking for
Hold on a
obstacles and
sec, guys,
roadblocks?
hold on.
We have the
One at a
employee,
time.
we have employees that are trained to come and open that office. So
Okay,
I
hold
don't
on,
know why we
Janet.
have to hire someone locally.
Hold on a sec, sir, your turn.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate Commissioner DeSanto's comments, because I wanted to echo that too, that obviously in open meetings, ideas get floated around, and by the next day, those ideas become reality sometimes. And I would just reiterate that there was no discussion at that meeting about 5 days a week. It was discussed, perfect world, it would be nice to have someone local to work with the county, maybe as a cost share type deal, if that's possible. I think it's worth exploring. It may save both of us money and time and provide an extra service and a better service to our patrons. Because once again, as you see that map, it's a huge area. It bells out in eastern Pennington County. It is a hardship. If you do a 30-mile radius out of Rapid, you catch Hill City, Custer, and all the other surrounding areas. But when you get in eastern Pennington County, boy, it really spreads out. And there's a tremendous amount of land, tremendous amount of tax generated in that area. And we want to work with the commission to come up with a solution. And it's frustrating because it seems like we keep getting roadblocks thrown at us. Janet, last time out in the hallway, you told me you were committed. You wanted, your people love coming to Wall, but every time I come up here, you make it sound like you're looking for ways to get this thing closed as quick as possible. That ADA thing, I'm frustrated because we were not notified previous to this that there was ADA compliance issues, and now all of a sudden it's boom, shut down. And as everybody knows, you can get notified there's ADA issues, but you're given time to comply with that in most
Okay,
cases.
I'll just stop the conversation just for a minute. All these things that we're all talking about can be addressed through the state's attorney's office, drawing up the lease, making sure the ADA is done, making sure the hours and the things on that agreement is set forth and agreed upon by Wall, the treasurer's office, and hopefully Mr. DeSanto, you've been doing very well on following through and getting this done and going to Wall. That was pretty awesome. And maybe work with Jay on some of this and make sure that that solution is found. I think everybody's saying some really good things, and we're going back and forth on this, but the bottom line is that agreement, if we're moving forward, it can be discussed on what needs to be on there and make sure it's satisfactory with our treasurer and Wall, if that's where we're going. So I'm gonna let the board have discussion for just a minute, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
So, board.
One
Hold
more
on.
thing.
Janet, hold on just a second, please. I'll let you talk again. Board, any
I
discussion?
think the Register of Deeds had something to say before we talk.
I'm asking for this board if we could, George, and then we will move forward. Mr. Farabee. Does anybody have any other discussion from the board that they need to ask either Janet or the mayor?
Madam Chair.
Sir, Mr. LaCroy.
I think we've heard some good testimony here, and I think if you sat through our budget hearings and the process that we went through, you know I'm not in support of taking money out of contingency to keep the Wall office open. And it's not because of the bad service or Wall or distance, it's because we had to make cuts, and a lot of departments did in services. And I made it very clear that I wasn't gonna go down that route. I think Janet's done a very good job of managing her office and the funding, and this is one way that, you know, the personnel that were sent in there could better be used here for the total county, not just one area. The issues that I have is partially ADA, and we can sit back and argue about notices and so forth, but it's been around for a lot of years. We should have done something a long time ago. We knew it was coming down, everybody. So to say it's an issue that we didn't know about is kind of a tough sell for me. Now that it's an issue, but there is ways around all that. But I think the efficiency for the county as a whole, this is the route to go. And I think it's unfair that I mean, we should have satellite offices everywhere. Everybody would like to have them in Hill City and so forth if we could. I understand the distance and the number of people, but I'm not gonna be in support of this, and it's not because of prejudice or anything else. It has to do with the funding and the fairness of the cuts that everybody that's made throughout the departments. And taking the contingency to keep it open, I just can't do. Not when everybody's made sacrifices to keep our taxes low.
Thank you, Commissioner Corey. Any other discussion from the board? Any questions for Janet from the commission here?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto?
I understand where Lloyd's coming from, but Lloyd, we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face. And I believe that by closing that office, that's exactly what we'll be doing. We'll be encouraging people and businesses to go somewhere else. And I believe that with Wall looking at expansion, it justifies a $7,500 expenditure to help accommodate that expansion in Wall, which in the future is going to bring this county more money through taxation.
Commissioner LaCroy, do you have a follow-up?
I just respectfully disagree. The founding, as I said before, other cuts, we lost personnel, so forth. I don't believe we're cutting off the nose off the face of anybody. I think, we're in the 21st century. Technology is going to continue to improve. We can do stuff online and move forward to that route. And some of us are hard to learn the change, to work around those. But I mean, as older people, and I understand they have an older generation up there, but technology is such that I think they can do business online or so forth to make up for it.
Thank you.
That's just mine.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCroy. We had someone else from the public that wanted to speak. George, did you say someone else that I missed?
Well, Register of Deeds was, before she got interrupted, was going to say something,
Okay.
and I think
Ms.
she ought
Donna,
to.
did you have something? Okay, Ms. Janet? Thank you, Ms. Janet.
The only thing I would like to reiterate is the mayor keeps saying that we're putting up roadblocks. I'm not putting up roadblocks. It's going to cost more money to hire somebody from Wall than it is my employee, because what you guys don't understand is all those titles that are transferred, all that business that is done has to come back to Rapid the next day because it has to all be in one package that goes to Pier. If you want to keep the Wall satellite office open, that's fine. But it's better to have an employee that's trained by my office that knows everything there is to know about titling and taxes to be in that office. Because you're not going to be paying, you're paying on her health insurance, whether she's here or whether she's in Rapid. You hire somebody else, you're going to be paying more money. So my suggestion would be, if you're going to keep the office open, you take the employee from my office like we've been doing for years. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, Ms. Janet. I think you just got a recognition for 30 years, and we do respect what you're saying up here, Ms. Janet. So,
Madam Chairman.
I'd just like to say that you are very well respected, and we are listening to what you're saying today, Ms. Janet. Mr. Busker, please.
I know Janet is very adamant about this. Quite frankly, it's none of our business how she runs her office. She's an elected official, and she can run her office however she wants to with the employees that she wants to have. And I don't think we're going to start getting into dictating who should be hired in every office. So I think that's a moot point. But this is a tough question, but I guess, I agree with Lloyd. And, we talk $7,000 isn't much money, and Wall wants to keep their economic development alive and growing, which they've hired people to do that. $7,000 maybe isn't that much for them to chip in for this either. I don't know, I'm kind of caught in between.
Thank you. For me, it's a good business decision to keep it open. They're doing business in Wall, and the kind of business they're doing there, and I have no complaints, again, about how Janet runs her business there. It's just my bottom line is, and I don't think we got it back and forth, but I think, what we're doing is we have a passion to keep it open, and we're thinking our treasurer's against us. And I've heard from the beginning that, either way, it was from a cut that we had her do, not because she decided it wasn't a good, fit for her treasurer's office. So, I think it's for $7,000, and I am listening to Commissioner LaCroy. I think it's a good business decision to keep it open from the people it serves, so, and we are a service-oriented business, so, thank you, that's my piece. Mr. Stroop, please, yes.
Thank you, Nick Street, HR Director and your ADA Coordinator for Pennington County. Just as a reminder to everyone, I don't care either way, but just so you know how we got here, just as a reminder, we have an agreement with the Department of Justice under Project Civic Access. And so that started in 2015, and some of Ron was here, some of you were here and are aware of the limitations that puts us in. How we arrived at this point is because this building was built prior to January 26, 1991, we were allowed under the agreement to continue using that, but in all, the federal government likes to trick you, we cannot sign another lease for a non-ADA compliant building. So I heard him say, can we just finish this year out? Yes, you can just finish this year out. You can finish infinity out, but you cannot sign another lease with a non-ADA compliant building. So if it's important for your reasons to sign another lease starting January 1, then that building has to be ADA compliant when you sign it. And so I was understanding that there's another place in town that is ADA compliant, the shared sheriff's office building. You could move the operations there temporarily until that building is brought up to code. So just a reminder, normally it's on our good faith that we have to operate under the ADA. However, we have a signed agreement with the Department of Justice, and so if you were to sign a lease with a non-ADA compliant building, you would be in violation of that agreement with the Department of Justice. So I'm not saying you can't go there in 2 weeks, you can't go there in November, you can't go there forever, but you just can't sign another lease.
Thank you.
So
And I
that's
think-
important because.
I believe we're all in understanding that if that lease is signed and we move forward.
But it cannot, right,
Without the ADA.
there can't be a caveat that we're gonna operate in this building and we promise to bring it up to compliance.
right.
That's not an option with where we sit today.
Right.
So you can move the office and bring that one up, you can move the office permanently, but the idea of, we promise to bring this up in the next year, you would be in violation of your agreement with the Department of Justice if you did that.
Well, if I'm
So that's just my
incorrect,
due diligence and just letting you know.
from being in the city and having ADA, they do give you a certain amount of time, the Department of Justice, to bring that up, but there has to be an end date, if I'm correct.
Not with a shared use facility.
Right. I guess
we are
from knowing
past-
from the Civic Center and stuff, Nick, it was always a certain amount of time.
That's because that's their building.
Right.
We have, if you remember that.
County's different than the city.
No. If
Okay.
we owned the building, we would have time to bring it up, but we're past that time. We signed our lease in 2015. We had time from 2015, 18 months, to bring our buildings up to speed, and we did that. Okay? The city had an agreement to bring their own building up at a certain amount of time, but the city right now, because they're still under that agreement, could not sign a lease agreement with us, for example, a separate entity for a non-compliant building. So I feel like you're getting at the idea that
Yes.
we can sign a lease with the promise that they'll bring it up in a certain time frame, and that's not an option.
Okay, thank you.
So I can't stress that enough.
So if, just one more second, sorry, so if we sign the lease, then ADA has to be brought up, and that's when that lease will be signed and finalized.
Correct.
That's the bottom line.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
I've got a question and a comment.
Mayor Farabee.
Who blesses the ADA facility?
Who buses? I don't
Who
know.
blesses, who's the final inspector or the?
We have a contract agreement with a local inspector, and he's been inspecting all of our buildings. He inspects all the sidewalks. He did all of Julie's polling places. So we have an agreement with a local company, Gene Fennell, who goes out And when this lease is signed, he will go out, he's a licensed architect inspector, and he'll go out and he'll inspect it. He'll write a note and we'll submit that to the Department of Justice. We will do it again with when the highway building opens. We'll have to do it again when the Health and Human Service facility opens. It'll need to be inspected to ensure.
This includes quote-unquote leased facilities or?
Correct, yep. And we do it all the time. So this isn't something new. I know it's new to the people of Wall, but we sign agreements all the time. And we have Gene go out and make sure that those buildings are ADA compliant before we enter into that lease.
The rest of my question is to Mayor, who does yours? Any idea?
Yeah, that's what's confusing, is because I haven't seen a report. I don't know if Mr. Fennell has a report on file currently for that building or not. If he does, if we could get a copy of that, so we don't want to, we're willing to take the next step to address those, but we want to make sure we're addressing the right issues.
So isn't that your building, sir?
That was my question.
It is, but I don't, I mean, but it keeps, that's why I'm confused, is the statements keeps being made that they're at a ADA compliance, but I've not seen, and we can contact Mr. Fennell or someone else to do one, but I'm just curious if you're aware of, because you guys are saying that it is out of ADA compliance, but I'm not aware of any report that
Madam
shows.
Chair, that was my question. I got a comment.
Go ahead, George.
I think we've discussed this long enough. It's been a really, really healthy discussion, pointing out some good points and some weak points in our joint relationship, and I think it should continue until we come to a solution. And we're not going to do it today. So I think we should move on, Madam Chair.
Thank you, but sir, the ADA, your building to be inspected and done right, you'll have to contact, when you do a building, the people that build buildings, and they'll check and see what's up to code for the county. The county will have a list of what has to be in that building to be up to code for ADA, if I'm correct. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So I think we can move forward, but Commissioner LaCroix, please.
I think Mark was before me.
He spoke,
Okay.
okay, not
I'll-
trying to be disrespectful.
You know, the only comment I got is, you know, these are tough issues. You know, I side with you guys with my heart. I'd like to approve it, but then on the business end, and there's some good arguments on the business end, but I also look out for the county as a whole. And I think as George has mentioned, there's some good and some bad that's came out of this. Now, I don't know if this commission wants to continue this on for another week or 2 weeks, or, you know, it's coming up at the end of the month, or the end of December. Well, but November, really, because you're not going to be in there to December, so we got to make a decision. So I'm not sure if the commission wants to continue it on, or if they want to make a decision today. I guess I'd look at the commission for their comment on this.
Commissioner DeSanto, this is your district, and for me, this direction.
I would like to move that we approve the wall office, and that we get to work. I'll work with Jay and Marty and Cheyenne on getting the place up to ADA compliance, and
Is that a
that
motion?
we won't sign the lease until such time that the building is ADA compliant.
So that's a long motion, but that's
It's
a
a long
motion.
motion. I make a move that we keep the wall office open.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No,
4 ayes and 1 no from Commissioner LaCroix. Thank you. Thank you for the good discussion. We appreciate your help.
Appreciate it. I'll be in touch, Marty.
Number 12 is items from Buildings and Grounds, a county health facility. It's called Construction Services Incorporated. The first one, do we need separate motions, Mike, for change order number 3 and change order number 4? Or
Mike Cool, Pennington County Buildings and Grounds. Yeah, I'd like separate motions for the two items.
so you'll do change order number 3 then, sir, first?
Yes.
Thank you.
As a construction project in progress makes it necessary to execute another change order on it. These are items that have come up through the course of work. Generally, they are items that are related to structural or functional issues necessary to the structure of the building or function of the operations that will go on on them. They have been already authorized through, by me, by the authority you've granted me, to make decisions relative to the projects. This is a formal action of incorporating this into the current contractor by requesting authorization of this change order, which would add $24,169.50 to the contract with Skull Construction Services. This change order does not add any days to the project currently.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Busker?
I understand change orders and, because things change during the construction. I just can't see that the mechanical room door for $5,500 wasn't on the original plans?
It was not. There was a single door for roof access up on the roof. We had looked at potentially creating an opening in a wall that we could build along the alley, that we could move equipment in and out of the space in the future. The problem is that the power lines are too close to that location, so we wouldn't be able to utilize that path into the building.
Okay. And roof drain, $8,000, we hadn't planned on it raining?
The roof drain was an existing to the building as it was, and the way that it was detailed on the documents that we had received in the purchase indicated that it was sized correctly. When they tore the ceilings out, we had plaster ceilings in those areas. The line that goes to the exterior of the building was undersized, so it could not carry the water.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Commission?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I've got a.
Commissioner Fairby?
I agree with Commissioner Buskerud. A door or $5,500, $5,580, and roof drain, like you mentioned, $8,000. Parking lot soils, what's the $3,000 there for?
That is, we have soft soils conditions. We believe that our geotechnical testing company and they're also the ones who did our geotechnical investigation. Their assumption is that there was probably an existing structure, a barn or something at one time in that location. It's created some soft soils that often, there's a couple ways of handling it. You start excavating it out, but you don't know how far you might have to go with that, so it's more of a question mark when you start trying to remove it, or you can try and bridge the soft soils. And so that's what we chose to do. Was we're using a fabric to bridge over the top and put base course over it. The reason we do that is so that it's just like any other building, like a building, we want to have a proper foundation under our pavement so that it doesn't start to break up immediately.
And this wasn't known ahead of time?
There's no way to know. We don't put a test hole or we are very selective in how many test holes we bore because of the costs associated with those. So
one more, what the hell is a structural snowdrift?
Structural snow, that's in regard to how snow can drift, load a roof on a building on leeward wind side of a wall or something, just like on a snow fence. Snow will accumulate on that side, it adds a load to a building. That's something that when the building was originally designed, that wasn't a part of the code, and now it is. So when we are making structural adjustments to the building, we have to bring it up to code.
Madam.
Thank you.
Commissioner LaCroy?
I just wanted to make the comment that I think the building committee's done a very good job of going through these. They're not doing anything unnecessary. I know this door has been on discussion for quite a while because they've looked for a lot of different avenues besides having to do that. And it ended up being a last resort. Otherwise, they would have found something.
It is, I'd like to add that it is not just the door that changes. We are adding a beam in the wall
Yeah.
to support the roof load above. So it is more than just a door.
Yeah, it's widening the door to support and so forth. But I just wanted to commend you guys for the work that you guys do at looking at saving costs and then looking out for the future maintenance of not only the building, but also the project, because the added cost and reducing the costs is a big deal later on. And you guys have, both Mikes have done a very good job of looking forward and saying, how can we reduce the maintenance costs and keep up, meaning that you're thinking about the snow, you're thinking ahead. I mean, those are the type of things that a lot of people overlook when they're doing it, but you guys have been doing this for a lot of years and know. And so I'm in support of the change orders. I'm glad you guys are getting ahead of the game with these.
Madam Chair, I knew there was one more, if I might. The ladder cage, we're just now discovering that we need a cage around the ladder.
That was one that the design team brought to our attention. They have apologized to me as well that they didn't recognize it. The thing was, the ladder exists currently, but now regulations require that you have a cage around those for fall protection. So that is a pretty significant transition in elevation for that ladder exists now. And so that was something that they identified after the fact and said that we, and provided that information to get that changed.
Anything else, Commissioner Fairby?
No, I'll be voting no.
Okay. Commission, any other discussion? If not, do we have a motion?
I'd make the motion to authorize the signature of the change order number 3, $24,169.50 to $91.70, $908.68, with no change to the contract time for school construction.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCroy. Is there a second? Is there a second? If not, I will second that motion. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I'm going to be voting yes on this, but so the public knows, I wasn't in agreement with this project to begin with, even though I wasn't a commissioner at the time. This was one of the reasons I ran. Very expensive project to beautify our courthouse, and I felt like there was other ways to address the leakage issue.
I apologize for interrupting. This one is tied to the county health facility, so I think that you're thinking of.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Buschrood?
Said aye.
Oh, sorry, sir. So 4 ayes and 1 no. Motion carries. Sorry, Commissioner, I did not hear you. Next, we are on item number B, or not B, change order number 4, prep for future second floor infill.
This is, change order 4 is for doing some infrastructure or preparation work in order to potentially do an infill project down the road. What we're preparing for is a residential treatment area on the second floor. Primarily, it will cover the entire east side of the building. A lot of this will be over the occupied space that will go, that's above the current gymnasium floor, where we're adding a second floor into that project. What it does, a lot of this work is plumbing work, so that we don't have to tear up finished, completed and operating spaces on the first floor once we get to that point. This is something that's kind of been in the works. The Building Committee has been talking about it for a while, of the need to do this. We did incorporate, look at this initially in the beginning with design work as well. At the time, there was a decision made that not to move forward with this component of it, but we are looking at trying to get it incorporated so that we can address it down the road without a lot of additional cost and disruption to the operations of the detox area below.
Mike, do you have, can you show us like a picture of what you're doing and what that actually entails for that second floor and what that means to us, what you're putting in there for future expansion in there and why you would do it now instead of later? And maybe the cost savings by doing that, what would that cost us now, today, instead of doing it later?
The cost that this work is, the cost of the proposed change right now is $89,325. As I indicated, that primarily this is related to plumbing. It also addresses, and this is something that didn't get highlighted on here because it's not a part of the this suite. This would all be residential treatment here area.
And this is the second floor or first floor?
This is the second floor of the east side.
Okay.
But included in here is we're doing some preparation work here for this exam room and office. The floors, you can see right here, there's an elevation change. This is a ramp here, and so this floor is slightly higher than this existing floor over here. So in order to make this, utilize this room from this hall, we have to raise the floor slightly in this area. So we're taking care of that right now so that with any structural modifications we have to do, so that we don't have to tear up the space below down the road.
So your structure modifications, in order to do that second floor, I see you have a lot on mechanical and stuff like that. Where are you talking mechanical? Are you needing to put more, future?
Generally, for the most part, it's the waste lines from restrooms and such. These kitchenette locations, there's some sinks. We have a laundry area. But generally getting the waste piping in the ceiling of the floor below, of detox areas below. So
you haven't built the second floor and you want to build this stuff into it for the future?
We want to incorporate this piping and stuff so that we don't have to tear up minimize how much we open up the ceilings of the detox area down below in the future.
Okay.
So we disrupt that. That saves money by trying to incorporate those things now. We're probably, those changes are likely not including a time factor in there in terms of escalation of cost, but we're probably easily saving 3 times. It's going to cost 3 times as much to do that later, plus the disruption to the operations below.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner LaCroix.
Thank you. I'm in support of this because when we first started talking about the NAU building and going through this, we had, no plans of moving forward with this. And it just makes absolute sense to get the infrastructure in there to keep the costs lower. I mean, that's just one of those things that we do it now. It's there, we save the money. If you have to tear stuff apart, have people come back in and do it later, it's going to cost 3 times as much probably, if not more. So, I mean, I'm in support of getting this moving forward to have the infrastructure and then it's there. It's be a cost savings for the county.
And I am not, we're not looking at this in terms of you authorizing this area goes forward in whole. We're just trying to make sure that we are ready if that decision is made down the road. And this is the point where we have to have a decision about whether you're going to do this or not.
One more
Mr. LaCroix.
But also having that infrastructure there now, even if the plans change from this originally, you could modify it because the infrastructure's there.
Yes,
So, I mean, it's just as he's saying, this is not a set plan, but it could be, at least with it there, they could work with it and do some other stuff if they need to.
yes.
Thank you. Board, discussion? Commissioner Buschard.
This is the part above the gymnasium, the old gym.
Yeah.
And that was all part of the original plan. What were we gonna do with it at the original plan? Anything? Just,
Well, originally, we had, we had looked at doing some residential, I'm talking about early design work. We had crisis care placed on the second floor along with residential treatment airspace, what you see here. And the decision was made that we were going to move that down, and this was all, these were decisions made in terms of shaping a construction budget that we thought would be acceptable, an acceptable project. And that decision was made to move crisis care downstairs to that floor, build out that area completely, basically have the second floor of this ready for something in the future. But there was nothing finalized for a layout or anything so that we knew where we could put things. So we're shooting in the dark a little bit. We took it a step farther here so that we had this kind of lined out, so we had a plan that could help us get to some decisions about it. And that's, we're trying to get that infrastructure in place to support it down the road.
so I'm kind of tossed here because I think I agree that if we go about doing this in the future, it'll cost more. If we'd have done it when we should have done it, when we were building it, it would have cost half as much. But we can't go back and look at that, I guess.
Well, we are building it right now. That's why it is, we're trying to do it now.
But it's not in part of the, I mean, I think you almost said it a little bit ago, and that's always what I'm afraid of. We didn't do it because we were trying to keep the costs down so the county commission would have approved it, you know? And if we put another 100,000 in there, who knows what would happen? That's what I hear, Mike. And
Well,
that's what I'm afraid
and I apologize if I'm misunderstanding. Relative to I should have the sheriff up here to talk about how this fits in the big picture of some of the things that he's trying to accomplish. And that was a choice that essentially he decided that he wasn't willing to try and push that any further at the project. But he is I'm hesitant, I guess, to speak too much on his behalf relative to that. But I know that he is trying to maintain funding relative to treatment programs and stuff that the county receives in some way. And all this fits a much bigger picture of some of the things in the long term that he's trying to accomplish. And so from a project standpoint, that's what I'm trying to address, is having the county in a position to minimize costs relative to, if you guys just approve that down the road, that we are in good position to move forward with those changes.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair,
Commissioner Farabee.
balderdash. The old foot in the door trick, you know, nobody in his right mind didn't think we were going to put a second floor on that gymnasium. Nobody in his right mind. It's the old foot in the door trick. Just so everybody knows, we spent about $5 million for that building, that shell, that what the hell ever, putting new windows in for, why in the hell we just don't break up the wall or the outside wall? What the hell are we putting windows in there for? No new energy efficient windows, but it's about $5 million for a building, another $1 million for dirt, for parking, taking all the houses out, and there's still one house there, I guess. About $1 million for dirt. And now almost, it's creeping up on $10 million. This will be $9,260,000. So we're looking at $16 million so far. And that's without the second floor. What the hell's the second floor going to cost us? I think we ought to fire the building committee, and I think we ought to start getting real with taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Commission, Commissioner LaCroy.
I guess I disagree with you, George. I think doing this part now, it probably wasn't so much in sight now, but I think what I see in the future is for a treatment center, that's saving our community costs and so much with detox and the crisis care and all that one building is a cost savings to the taxpayers of what we got. If I remember correctly, the old building detox, they were gonna make into a treatment center for now and probably end up transferring over, which would open up that building, I'm assuming, for sale to recoup some money.
Long term.
I'm just speculating, I'm not saying it out there, but.
Hold on just a sec, Mike.
But, I mean, yes, that's a lot of money, George. It is. And I think when these things get planned out 2, 3, 5 years ago when they start out, not everything's thought out until everybody sits down and things change. They do. Projects change, everything changes. And so I think it's good foresight to get, like I said, the infrastructure and get all this stuff going and be prepared, because in the long run, it's going to save taxpayers money through law enforcement and jails and so forth. And so I think we got to look at the big picture and not just keep what's in front of us. Thank you.
Mike?
I guess I just, relative to, some of this is a kind of an evolving picture of some of the things that are working on. But much of these ideas are done to try and avoid building additional jail space down the road. But we are trying to accommodate or be prepared to deal with the things that we need to do in the future. We don't want to create situations that we have spent money on things that we have to tear out and redo completely. We try to look forward into the future, have a plan for where we think things are going to lead, and try and set ourselves up on so we're prepared when we go down that path. So we're looking at things out over 20 years out in some ways at times on these projects and stuff. And part of that is trying to make some decisions that cost something right now that saves us considerable money down the road and has detrimental effects on the operations within the facility once it's occupied.
Thank you. Commission, questions for Mike? Any other questions? Commissioner
Madam Chairman.
Busker?
Yeah. This is another tough decision because I think, it's probably a great idea to keep ahead of things. Unfortunately, the back of my mind keeps revolving around, build it and they will come. And next year, we'll be looking to finish this baby off and start up a treatment program. And, so anyway, that's.
Madam Chair, if I can add on to that, not too many years ago, I recall a discussion that we built this new jail annex and we're good for like forever. And forever's here, I guess. But have it, jail's full.
Commissioner, the jail's full, I guess I didn't understand what you just said.
When we built the jail annex, or what the hell the second building is called, that was good for for many, many, many decades. And that was only a little less than a decade ago. I think that annex is about 10 years old. Filled up?
Annex was completed in 2006.
So a little over 10 years. Yeah.
Thank you. Couple of things. Number one, I think the building committee does a really good job. I was on the building committee, and there's a team of people there that look at all the costs. Plus you got Mike Cool and Mike Peterson on there, and I think they've held the line for Pennington County a long time. So I'm in disagreement with that. And I have been on there, and I have been going in on these projects when they're building them just to see what's going on in those projects. And of course, the highway's basically complete, but I won't go there because that's not about this. But I think you're being disingenuous by not following the process sometimes to see what the bottom line is and where this committee goes. Because when you do, it's pretty exciting. Number two, there is going to be a transformation center that's going to be in Rapid City that's going to add to this, and then we're going to have restoration center. You can put them in jail and cost you money, or you can do some programs and things to try to make a difference in people's lives. Some people don't approve of that, but how much more does it cost for a program than it does for throwing people in jail with no help? That's what you got to ask. So jails are getting to the max, and we have to do something different in the county and the city. Otherwise, there's going to be bigger issues. Again, that jail's at 624 people as of yesterday, if I am correct. It's not supposed to house that many at that time. So bottom line is, you can throw them in jail, or you can have programs and things that actually work and have proven to work, like crisis care and other things, to try to help that process down the line. So you could say $10 million building. Start looking at costs of how much it costs to house people in jail, instead of trying to mask the problem. Hopefully with these programs that we have with Health and Human Services and other people in town that are trying to make those costs go down to the taxpayer by actually really rehabilitating their sisters, their brothers, and their families, and their friends. We all want that more than I want to see somebody in jail. So I think what this program and what we're doing here on this change order is anything. I do buildings, and my husband builds them. And if we don't prepare for what we're going to build out to, and we're doing that right now on one of our projects, you're going to cost you 2 to 3 times more. Whether they build it out or not, I truly believe in the future you're going to build it out. Because again, you got a transformation center coming, and a restoration center is what this is called. They're going to work as a team in order to make that difference on those cost savings for the state through the program. So we can do it now, or we can do it later is the bottom line. And it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot more money later if that's what we're saying here today.
Madam Chair,
Thank you. Commissioner LaCroy.
I'd make the motion to authorize the chair's signature to change order number 4 dated September 26, 2017, with the increase to the contract sum $98,325.
Can I interrupt? Excuse me. I noticed that there was a typo in there. I changed swapped the 8 and the 9 by accident. It should be 89,000.
89, for 89,325.83 to 9 million. So what's that sum gonna be? That's gonna be 10,000 cheaper?
It'll be the
9
same.
million?
No, it'll be the same number. I just changed the numbers.
9,262,34.51, and increase the contract time by 28 days for Skull Construction Services, Inc. Contract for the construction on the Pennington County Health Facility Project.
There's a motion by Commissioner LaCroy. Is there a second? Is there a second by the board? Not, I'll second the motion. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, let me repeat that this is the old foot in the door trick, and I'll be voting no.
Just one more time, George. I guess I don't understand. What's the foot in the door trick again?
If you heard me a little while ago, I said nobody in his right mind would have believed that we weren't going to put a second floor in that gymnasium.
There's a
Hold
second
on,
floor.
Commissioner. Sir, hold on a second.
That the gymnasium obviously was going to be a second floor. When I say a second, 2 levels of occupancy, I guess you understand that terminology? Anyway, the gymnasium wasn't going to stay as is. So you would think that you would build, when you're doing the rest of the building, that you would put, for lack of a better word, infrastructure or whatever. You do that in preparation for at some future date, putting a second floor in the gymnasium. And that's not the floor that we took up, by the way. I'm not talking about the wood floor that I adamantly opposed to taking up in the first place. I'm talking about putting another level.
Thanks.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, sir?
Okay, I just wanted to be clear that the construction of the second floor over the gymnasium is a part of the current project already.
Right.
And it is was planned to be future space. And relative to respond, I guess, relative to providing infrastructure, unless we have an idea of what it is we're gonna put there, and we can't really design for it without. We did go to the extent of putting together a plan of how we would try and address putting this type of occupancy up on this floor, and that's given us the information we need to have in order to put this infrastructure in to support this floor plan in the future. Now, could we potentially utilize that in some other capacity? Yes, especially for like these core restroom areas here, where the majority of that cost is.
Commissioner LaCroy?
I just want to reiterate, during construction projects, they're long and tedious. I mean, you're looking at a lot of different things, and it's not something that's done in 6 months, 3 months. They're long-range plans. And along that way, there's a lot of changes and movements that go around, and that's what the building committee does, is they look at those and do those. So when you get to the end project, such as this, this happens, folks. I mean, it finally got to the point where here we are umpteen years later from the original plans, and they've come up with an idea to use it that's going to be, for the save taxpayers money and so forth, and it's time to do it now. I understand the frustration with the commission. I really do. I'm right on board with Ron to it. You build more beds, you're going to fill them. I mean, it ends up being that way. One way is federal monies help pay for some of those beds, yes, and so forth. Those are the other things that we look at. But I think with this project, I made the motion to move it forward, and I think for us to be conservative and move forward with it, I think is the way to go.
And I think if I heard right from listening, is we just talked about infrastructure and how that moves forward and how we need to prepare for that, and that we should know that. Okay, so now we've built that bottom floor, and now we're preparing for that that infrastructure for the future. So, I think we're talking out of both sides there when we're saying 1 minute, we should have known the infrastructure, now we've got the second floor, and then anybody knows that they build, sometimes that infrastructure changes and where we're putting it and what's gonna be on the second floor. So, again, we're preparing for the future for the infrastructure in that area, so.
And I guess I want to be clear that we're not actually changing anything that has been done as far as work so far. We're adding additional elements to the building in order to be able to support this program down the road. And I guess to speak a little bit towards, there's a lot of things evolving within the community right now, really, to how to address the problems of the community, and those things are changing all the time about, how do we address the problems of the community? What are we going to do? And one impacts the other at times, and changes how we look at things down the road. And I believe that's, a little bit here. I am, from a project management standpoint, which is my responsibility, and in terms of, what the programs are, what gets decided, that's a bigger, that's a building committee and a commission decisions relative to that. But relative to project management and when is the appropriate time to institute changes that are in the best interest of the county, that's my responsibility. And what I'm advising you is that this is if you think that you're going to allow this to happen, and this would happen in the future, this is the appropriate time to address these elements in the building and get them incorporated.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
to clarify, Mike, that second floor is already going in.
Correct.
We just don't know what's going to be inside the second floor,
Right.
what's going to be contained in it. And therefore, what you're trying to do is prepare for what we're going to use that second floor. It's not just going to sit empty
Correct.
forever.
Right.
And so you're trying to prepare in advance so that later on, down the road, once we get the roof on and everything's there, we don't have to go in there again, tear everything back up again, and start from there.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Busker,
That's a
please.
great idea, except that's if you know that this is the final solution. If it's not the final solution, you're probably going to tear everything up again anyway.
Good point, Ron. Good point.
This is what we've done, we've gone through the effort of trying to come up with a plan, and this has entailed a number of meetings and stuff to develop something that we think will meet the needs that are out there. Relative to how all that works and whether you approve it or something are beyond mine, other than my role on the building committee. And how this fits into the bigger picture of things that the sheriff and other organizations are trying to do in terms of meeting community needs. Those are things that he needs to probably speak to you more than I am. And I feel a little bit that, I'm out ahead on discussion about these things, talking about this where a number of this, in terms of how it fits the big picture, aren't things that I can address to you very well. I have an understanding from a building committee perspective of why this is important, and to put it as plainly as I can, is that putting people, running people through a residential program keeps them out of jail rather than, and that helps us not have to build a third jail tower, which we are trying to make sure that we have the ability to construct a third jail tower in the future someday when it is needed, that we have that ability to do that.
So, Mr. Cool, if you spend $89,000, if that's what I'm listening to, and then the floor plan changes and you've spent $89,000 to prepare for the infrastructure on that second floor, are you going to tear a bunch of that out and cost us more money because you decided to change it?
Well, our interest would be in trying to utilize the infrastructure that we installed. And my point being is that when it comes to the plumbing component of that, that's one of the most, the major point. We would try and incorporate our restrooms and stuff in this area then in the future so that we could utilize that things. Of course, no matter what's up there, there's going to be a need for restrooms. As long as we're going to put people up there, we're going to need restrooms. So we can utilize that infrastructure. When we start talking about things that are outlying a little bit more, those aren't, maybe they don't fit a future thing, a future program that might go up on that floor. But those aren't the real large costs in that. That's one pipe running out there where I've got massive pipes that in a massive ductwork and that's one of the things that isn't conveyed relative to this is detox and the way that we get air and handle our heating and cooling and everything down there. That ceiling is completely chucked full of ductwork and piping and stuff. And if we don't incorporate it now, we have to tear out and modify stuff in the future to address those. To be able to just run pipes from one, it's not that simple.
Thank you. Any other discussion, board? There is a motion on the floor. Can we have roll call, please?
Busker,
No.
DeSanto,
No.
Farabee,
No.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Hadcock.
aye. Motion fails for, fails. Okay, thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Next is number 13. Items from Buildings and Grounds Sheriff's Office, Pennington County Jail Study Results. First, we'll have the proposed jail, kitchen, laundry, and remodel project.
You sure you're ready for this, Sheriff?
Maybe you want to take a break first.
Need to.
Actually, let's do a 5-minute break, if that's okay, Board?
Be great for
Sorry,
you.
Sheriff.
We're good for
We
me,
get-
too.
We get breaked on a lot, don't you? Okay,
Get this pulled
all
up.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Items from Buildings and Grounds Sheriff's Office. Your name, sir?
Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff. It went well for Mike asking for $89,000. I'll see how my $6 million request goes, but we'll hear my case here first. I'll slide this over. And I hope you'll ask questions at any point along the way. And I'll provide this PowerPoint to you if you want copies of it. But, you know, the jail laundry's been discussed. I put over 8 years because it was discussed by Sheriff Holloway when I come in. Mike Peterson reminded me this morning that it's been discussed for about 15 years in terms of issues with it. We've explored a lot of different options. You know, Mike referenced someday we'll need a third tower in that east parking lot between the jail and the parking ramp, and I think that's a logical place for it. And hopefully that's 15, 20 years down the road, and none of us have to worry about that. But it's important that we think long-term in terms of these projects, especially when you're, you know, looking at the campus setting that we're in, and so we don't tie, you know, future commissions, future sheriff, future policymakers on their options. And when we looked at all the options too, the architects, if you look in the study, they were recommending that we go ahead and build the infrastructure for the third tower. You know, we chose to not do that because frankly, it was just too much money. And I didn't think it was the best way to go, and we discussed it with the building committee, and the building committee's in support of the concept that we have. The commission has previously approved the study with the architect. You did that in May of 2016. And we've identified this, broken down into 5 potential project phases, and we're just looking at funding for 4 of the phases. But again, I think it's important to identify all 5 phases, so as we do future planning, you know what's out there, and we've thought about it and given thought to what it would look like. And Mike's going to speak to the contract with the architect and, you know, how it's structured and the dollar amounts that exist in that. It's important to note we're not requesting any additional bonding authority on this project. At some point in the future, the county may have other needs for bonding, and that's a separate discussion, but we did not want to ask for any additional bonding authority. And you know, Commissioner Busker had asked me how are we going to pay for this, and I said accumulated building, and that was a little bit of a mistake. It's accumulated building in the balance of the bonded money that's left that was previously approved, so it's a combination thereof. Not requesting any additional funds, not requesting any additional bonding. I think that's important. The thing I want to mention is there's no motion required at this meeting. This is an informational meeting. We'll come back in 2 weeks, and that's when we'll actually request the motion. But this is the time to certainly ask any questions and give us 2 weeks to come back with any additional information you may need. So when the annex was constructed in 2006, you know, underneath where we currently have patrol vehicles parked, that was not finished, but again, that was designed for future expansion. That was forward thinking in, you know, 2004 or 5 when they designed the building and built it and completed it in 2006 to allow that space to be enclosed. Again, cheaper than going back and building new space. It's a more effective way to do it. I think most of you have toured the jail. We've talked about the sewer line issues, those sorts of things that exist. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. But again, if somebody wants a tour between now and then, next meeting, we would certainly offer that again. But I think most of you have been through there and have heard the need for moving the laundry and kitchen. You know, the laundry and kitchen was
originally built, I guess the easiest analogy I can use or example I can use to illustrate it is, the original tower was finished in 1990, so it's 27 coming up on 28 years ago. The laundry and kitchen was designed to accommodate that tower. So when they added the annex, the second tower, we didn't add any additional staff areas, laundry or kitchen. So basically, we doubled the size of the operation and didn't add any additional space for those functions. And frankly, after 28 years, the laundry and kitchen is just.
I hate to interrupt, but why would we do that? Why would anybody not provide the facilities to go with the building?
Madam Chair, if I may, I wasn't part of that process then, and I don't know. Sometimes it's limited to available funding at the time. Sometimes, I don't know why the decision was made. I can't answer that.
Sometimes commissioners don't vote for future expansion.
No. You got a building without a kitchen and a laundry. Why in the hell would you do that? Why in the hell would you build a building without a kitchen and a laundry? Just think out of the box. Why would somebody do that?
And if I may, in this project, we're doing exactly what you're asking, because we're now designing this space as it's proposed for 1,000 to 1,200 bed facility. So we're designing this space to accommodate that third tower. So someday when the third tower is built, the staff area, the laundry, the kitchen, everything is there to accommodate that additional expansion, so they shouldn't have to come back and ask for a laundry and kitchen. Now, just because we have the space set aside for the laundry and kitchen doesn't mean we have to put in all the equipment. I mean, if right now we're feeding 700 people, then we'll put in enough equipment to feed 700 people. If we're going to feed 1,000, we'll add the equipment as we go. But Commissioner Fairby, you're exactly right. We're doing, in this case, exactly what you're talking about, what they failed to do when they built the annex.
Well, the other thing is you built it in 1990, for 236 inmates. You also weren't serving, if I'm correct, maybe you were back then, detox, because that didn't come in later. And then JSC, I don't know if they were back then feeding and going, because those two satellite areas have been added to that expansion, or that, there's expansion on people, but not expansion on the facilities. So if you haven't expanded and it was made for 236 inmates, you've done pretty well in moving forward on up to 700 people. Plus, is that 700 or 624 or 700 with, are you including JSC and detox, or is that just for inmates that are in the jail, the 600 to 700?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. We do feed the satellite facilities. We've centralized our kitchen because it's cheaper than having multiple kitchens. So JSC has a kitchen out there. We use it now just as a prep area. So we bring the food from the main jail. And we want to bring as much of the laundry back to a centralized laundry as possible too. And to answer your question, we're feeding somewhere between 650 to 700 people a day if you count the jail and the satellite facilities.
Right, and you never know what you're going to do for programs or other things in the future. I'm sure in 1990, they didn't think they were going to have a detox unit and separate to 24/7 and do all the programs they are today in order to try to cut costs in one sense, but help people as well. So,
sorry about the interruption, but since Joe doesn't have a job, maybe he can come help us.
Joe who?
Joe Arpaio.
Oh. And the idea of centralizing the laundry and the food services, if we bring it back to the main jail, then we use inmate trustees for the labor. So instead of sitting in their jail cell, they're doing work, and they're helping keep our costs down if we keep it in the facility. When you start scattering out into other facilities, that's harder to do. So it's a way for us to keep our costs down and utilize our in-house labor, frankly.
So you knew when the annex was constructed in 2006, the ground floor was not finished but designed for future expansion. So you knew in the future, and you thought about that for 2006. So when I talked to Mike Peterson, there was a master plan done in 2010, if I'm correct? Mr. Peterson, sorry, Sheriff Tome. Mr. Peterson, can you come up and expand on that a little bit of what that 2010 plan had in it for the master plan?
And what is your question on?
when they
There was
did the,
lots of stuff done in the master plan.
in 2010, because what we're hearing is we really, we just brought these projects forward. This hasn't been thought out. It hasn't had master plans or anything. We just did it the last couple years. I mean, this, if I'm listening, and I was yesterday, at 2010, what was in the master plan to move the jail and the annex area and stuff forward for the future?
The way the county has grown and the way the programs have changed and different things throughout, I mean, everything you've got to understand is a moving target. It really is. We take and try to put as much time into looking at the future as you possibly can. Going back to the 2003, when we were starting to put the annex together, and at that time, only needing as many beds as we needed, we finished the 4th floor and we shelled in the rest. And we, for the future, made the lower level even a possibility to fill in and capture that space for future growth. When we did the 2010 master plan, all the places that we had already looked at for the future were made part of that plan. All the programs that were on the table at that time were put in the plan. We did a complete facility, every facility, inspection, shortcomings, what's good about it, what's bad about it, could it be expanded? It's all in there. And we spent many, many, many months putting that together. The jail kitchen laundry has been in there since, I believe we've got 8 years. It's been on the table as becoming a higher priority. But it's been on the discussion and part of the, for 15 years, and it was in the 2010 master plan.
And was the parking facility in the main jail and the public, what's it called, service building?
Public safety building.
Public safety, I never can get that building right. Public safety building, that was on the expansion just because we have done some of those things that have been on that master plan but are still moving forward to the next steps. Am I correct?
The public safety building is a great example on future planning. And when that was put in, the foundation and infrastructure there was designed for 2 more floors on top of it, which we've added. And we've even put in infrastructure and foundation enough to add to the sides of that building. The county's not going to get any smaller, and it's not a part-time job. It's what we do. As a building committee, as buildings and grounds, we look at everything that we possibly can for the future.
And I think we do, because I think people forget that population changed since 1990.
Quite a bit.
Needs of the people have changed. We have went to different types of substances that cause jail facilities to expand. We have done programs that have caused our facilities to expand. And when you're thinking about this, guys, it's many different factors that move us where we are today and need expansion. It's not just because we need a new building. I think what the building committee has done is thought about it, not just this building committee, but others, about what the needs are, and they have been helped and directed by people that have been here before, like Mike Peterson and Mike Cool and others, to find the future needs of what's going on. And if you see the group of people that's in that group that are putting these projects forward, there's a lot of experienced people in there that are doing it because they are thinking about the future and they work in those occupations that know what's coming. And I truly believe in what they do, and they have not steered us wrong on those facilities, so.
Now, as the sheriff continues his PowerPoint here, a lot of this has been thought about not only by the building committee, not only by buildings and grounds, but we've hired consultants and engineers through the years that we've worked with on all these projects to put in as much as we can put in for the future. I'm not going to go back to the last motion you people made, but you did not save Pennington County taxpayers any money today with that motion. Look at this project. It needs to be done. If there was a way for us to fix and expand the existing jail, kitchen and laundry, where it's at, we have looked at every possible avenue of that we could, and it's impossible. With the needs they have, this is the best plan we can put together for you people.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
And if I may, I'll continue at the PowerPoint. Thank you, Mike.
Sorry, Kevin.
And Mike brings up a good point about, again, thinking about the future. And we actually sat down and did jail projections, looking at what we call our ADP, average daily population. And, you know, it's hard to sit here and say, it's not a science, it's a little bit of an art and a science. You know, we think a third tower is somewhere in that 15 to 20-year range, but I don't know, we have an explosion of our population, something changes legislatively, another meth epidemic, whatever it might be. A lot of different variables can impact, you know, our population, sentencing practices by the judges, whatever it might be. So based on what we know historically, using an educated decision on what we think the population is going to do in the future, we think this pushes it out, you know, 15 to 20 years. And so when that does happen, this is accommodated for in that third tower. But I'll show you some more pictures and, again, just an aerial view, you know, the main jail, the jail annex, and you can see that blank space to the north between the parking structure and the main jail. That's where I'll show you, we're going to move some of our parking, but ultimately, that's where the third tower would, you know, potentially go if and when the county reaches that point. So secured parking, right now we have, the police department parks under the courthouse, so their patrol vehicles are underneath that portion by the jail sally port. We would move our patrol vehicles. The red dotted line is the existing area underneath the parking ramp now. The blue area to the west is what we would cover in addition to that area. And again, it's a fairly low cost dollar amount, but we need some covered parking. So if you're in the office and you have to come out and jump in your patrol car to respond to an emergency, we don't have the luxury of waiting for our cars to defrost and brush the snow off them, all those sorts of things. So we need covered parking for our patrol vehicles so we can respond, you know, as needed. And I'm going to go through these, you know, fairly quick because we have a summary at the end. But, you know, for that portion, again, these are estimates. About 294,624 is the number. In phase two, the main jail, this is actually a space over a portion of the sally port. And what we would add here is it would serve as a briefing, training room, conference room combination for the jail admin space. And why we're doing this in the sequence we are, if you approve this and move it forward, we have to vacate the space under the jail annex. So you need a place to move our patrol cars to first, and then you can start working on the space underneath the annex. So that's the sequence. And this is, and I'll show you a subsequent phase, but phase two here allows us to take some of our admin space, relocate it into here while they renovate that admin space. And these numbers we've given you, these are construction estimates, you know, by the architects. Mike and I have talked extensively. Some of this work Buildings and Grounds can do, and that'll bring our costs down. But again, I believe in worst case scenario when we bring it to you, so we don't come back later and say we missed it by $1 million. Again, the cost for the space over the sally port, $297,000. This is the largest piece of the project, phase three. So this is underneath the jail annex where we currently park our patrol vehicles. And then there's a connector hallway that they would do as part of that. So as we go to finish off the booking area, that's in place. Again, trying to think about it in, you know, sequential phasing as we do the projects. But this is size for that third tower, like we talked, 1,000 to 1,200 bed facility. So laundry, kitchen, additional staff areas are all incorporated into here. And then the loading dock you see on the lower part of the photo. And again, I'll certainly have time for questions. I'll just kind of power through these and come back through any of them that you want to look at closer. The cost on this area is about $4.6 million. Again, that's an estimate. Phase 4 remodel of the main floor. Remember I showed you the picture above the sally port where it'd be a conference room. Some of the admin space would move into that conference room. Then this area could get reconfigured. And again, talking to Mike, Mike thinks a lot of buildings and grounds can do a lot of this work, and that would bring that number down in terms of cost. But the number we've attached to it today is a little over 700,000, 706,000. So total project cost, 5.9 million, and I put an asterisk there because that does not include the laundry kitchen equipment. I want to talk about that for a minute. We hired a architect that does just correctional laundry kitchen facilities, almost probably 18 months ago now. We would work with them to see what we could cannibalize out of our current laundry kitchen and move over. Then we would talk about what we would need to add. And, if we're going to feed 700 people, we'd put in the equipment to feed 700. If we think we're going to feed 1,000, we'd put in an extra washer, an extra dryer, an extra oven, all those sorts of things. If you look in the information you have, I think the architect put in a $900,000 number. I don't think it'll be that high. And the other thing is, it won't be rolled into this cost. It's a cost to the county, don't misunderstand me, but most of these laundry and kitchen type equipment, you can do a lease purchase. And we would build that into our annual budget cost, again, coming out of our revenues that we generate with our federal inmates. So it wouldn't be tax support dollars at the end of the day, but it is a cost to the overall project. So I wanted to make sure we identified that and clarified it. So again, just kind of an overview then. The phase over the two, I think it was over the Sally Port is not reflected on there, but it shows everything else in terms of kind of a campus setting, the annex, the parking, the main jail. And then what this sets us up for is phase 5, and I want to talk about that a little bit. We're not asking for money for phase 5, but that is a cost going forward, whether that's 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, I don't know. But again, talking to Mike, Mike said if we take the time to phase this and aren't in a rush, Buildings and Grounds can do most of the work. If they do most of the work and we take our time, we can pay as we go. I don't have to come back and ask for additional money or any additional bonding to do this. And I know Commissioner Hadcock, you had asked previously about, does this increase the bed space in the jail? It increases the bed space in booking, a little over double. So we have about 20 beds in booking now. It would take us up to a potential of about 44 beds in booking. So it does increase the bed space overall in the jail. So with that, it's a lot of information. And again, not requesting a motion of any sort today, but certainly it's a lot to digest. And hopefully between now and the next meeting, if you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them. But I'll stand for any questions you have now.
Thank you, Sheriff Tom. Discussion board?
No, good presentation.
Any discussion? We don't need a motion, but if you'd like to ask questions about the jail, expansion, public safety, parking.
Has the food improved?
Pardon?
Has the food improved?
Has the food improved?
Over
Is
about,
that from experience?
yes.
From word.
They
tell
hell
everybody
of a
we-
diet program.
Tell everybody we serve a lot of food, not necessarily good food, so.
Are you talking from 1990 food, George, or from today's? I'm trying to figure out
That
when
was
you
a
ate
few,
the
a
food.
few years ago. Falsely arrested, falsely confined. Yes. But I wouldn't recommend it. And the damn sure don't recommend the beds.
Yeah. But again, as you go forward, if over the next 2 weeks, you want some additional information or you want to come actually tour and walk through some of it, please do, and we'll accommodate you, so.
Good.
With that, I'll sit down and shut up if there's no other questions, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin Tom, for the info. Number 14, items from Highway Department. Declare surplus Highway Department shop and fuel system. Your name, sir?
Good morning, Tom Wilsey, Highway Department. The old Highway Department shop and fueling system need to be declared surplus in order to destroy and dispose of these items. These items are no longer necessary, useful, or suitable for the purpose for which they were originally acquired. We are requesting a motion to declare surplus capital asset item number 100069 Rapid City Highway Shop and Offices, and capital asset item number 050423, the Gas Boy Automated Fuel System for Destruction and Disposal.
We have a motion.
Madam Chair, question?
Sir?
Do we, like on the tanks and stuff like that, do we turn those over to Pacific Steel and Recycling? What do we do with all that stuff?
Those tanks have already been disposed of.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, they were declared surplus months ago,
okay.
and they were disposed of. We got,
But I guess my question is anything that we can turn over and collect some revenue from, possibly, do we
If
do
we
that?
can.
Or do we not?
if we can, we do. There's a lot of, we have metal items that we are salvaging now, going to sell for scrap metal.
Okay, good, all right.
Thank you.
So moved.
Moved by DeSanto, second by LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 15 is request for speed limit reduction on Morris Lane. Miss Sandy Siles. Good morning, Miss Sandy.
Morning. I've been living on Morris Lane since February, and the first thing that was brought to my attention was the speed limit was 50 miles an hour, and many had talked about how that needed to get reduced. Anderson, that's adjacent to us, is 35, and Longview, that's parallel with us, is also 35. There's age ranges from 2 to 92 on that road. The 92-year-old walks it, that's how he's 92. And I have 4 kids of my own that have to walk a quarter of the mile to get to the bus stop. There are no shoulders. There's no side of the road. It goes down into ditches. It is a ranching area. The map doesn't show it very well, but there is a bend in the road, and there's even a hidden driveway around that bend. So when somebody's going around, you don't really know what's around there. We have teenagers that ride their skateboards, kids that ride their bikes to their friend's house. So I'm just requesting that we can reduce the speed limit down to 35 for the safety of the kids, well, and the elders, all of them.
Thank you, Miss Sandy. Questions for Miss Sandy?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
I'm very familiar with this area, and I believe what's happened also is that because we reduced the speed limit on Longview, now all the people that want to go fast jump over to Morse and run out on Morris Lane. So we probably should have just done it when we reduced the speed on Longview, but I would recommend for approval on the reduction of speed on Morris Road.
Been a motion and a second. Motion by DeSanto, second by LaCroy. Any other discussion?
I would like
Commissioner
our highway superintendent to comment.
Yes, sir. Your name, sir?
Tom Wilsey again. As she said, Morris Lane is between Anderson and Radar Hill. And I attached a map for you guys so you could understand exactly where it was. We did a traffic count on this in 2012, and the average number was 127. So it's not heavily trafficked, but we have no problem with dropping the speed limit to 35.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Any other discussion? Commissioner LaCroy?
Tom, I have gotten a few concerns from people on Longview that wanted their speed limit raised back up. I have had that comment. Just to bring it out to make sure that you're aware of it and you're aware of it, that must have been changed quite a while ago.
Years ago.
2.5 years ago, I think.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bring that up so when Danny asks me, I can tell him I told you guys.
We get comments on that at least 2 or 3 times a month.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any others?
Morse
Commissioner
Lane,
Fairby?
Morse Lane paved?
Yes, it is. This section is.
And it's only a mile long, so it's really short. We get most of the traffic is from Radar Hill trying to cut off that corner to get to 44.
Right.
Yes.
Morris Lane, this section is paved. You go west of there, I think it's another half mile. We don't maintain that, and it's gravel.
I just wanted to bring a point up for, every time there's one person that wants it lower, there's other people that want it to stay in the same. And so there's an argument going both ways, but I think to be consistent with what's in the area now, I think it's a good idea to do this.
I also think that there's probably going to be additional residential expansion out there eventually. I mean, those empty fields aren't going to stay empty forever.
Of course, so it's a safety thing as well, so. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Sandy.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir. Commissioner LaCroy?
I got a procedural question that maybe Jay could help me on. I was thinking about, how would we reconsider an item we've already voted on?
Sorry, I missed that last.
How would we be able to reconsider an item we've already voted on? I'd like to have one.
Every January, you vote on that issue as part of Robert's Rules of Order, and I think I'm gonna shoot from the hip here, but on reconsideration, I think a member of the prevailing side
right.
of the motion can give notice to reconsider,
But when do they do that, Jay? Like now or at the end?
I think it's before
During
you,
this meeting,
yeah, before you adjourn.
Okay,
And then I think you can reconsider at this meeting or at the next
at the
meeting.
next meeting.
so Commissioner LaCroy, could you,
The reason, thank you, Madam Chair. The reason I ask that is because I think with that change order number 4, I think that's something we do need to reconsider, as
Well,
Jason-
you're off base. You're out of order. You were on the
it
wrong
has to be
side.
on the prevailing side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, they asked me why I wanted the information, so I was explaining
Okay.
myself.
Okay, hold on, George, let him.
He's out of order.
speak. I know, just hold on, George. We got to explain to him, Mr. LaCroy is maybe asking if someone wanted to reconsider on it. That was on the prevailing side. Is there any reconsider on the prevailing side? Okay, if not, we move forward. Thank you. Thank you for that
Motion to go to the
information.
Board of Adjustment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Buschard, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. First, we're on the variance for Logan Beckett, Megan Sales, or Scales.
We got, staff was on the phone, they'll be down here in a second to log in for the overhead projector, but this is, PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. This is variance 1712 for Logan Beckett and Megan Scales as the owners, Renner Associates LLC as the agent. This was before you previously as the applicant is looking to vacate or have a lot line setback, but at the same time needed to vacate portions of an easement with the city of Rapid City because the city was the one who platted the property initially. When it was first submitted, the applicant has requested a 1.4-foot setback and also that much of into the easement. However, that was denied by the city. The applicant appealed it and reissued with a 2.5 foot request for the easement, and now also is going to be for the setback. So the city has, as of yesterday, approved the vacation of that portion of the easement for the applicant. And as part of that process, now the applicant is here to request what was originally a 1 foot, 4-inch setback variance is now going to be a 2 foot, 5-inch setback variance. There are 4 criteria that need to be looked at for variances. The first is that specific circumstances or conditions such as exceptional narrowness and topography site exist. Staff has verified through a site visit that the lot size and the existing drainage easement and topography do inhibit some buildable area on the subject property, but there does appear to be sufficient space behind the single-family residence for the garage, which would require the applicant then to have kind of a curved garage go around the back of the house. The second item is that a variance does not grant a use which is otherwise excluded from this particular district. This setback variance would not grant a use which is otherwise excluded in a suburban residential district. The third criteria is that due to specific circumstances or existing conditions, strict applications of the zoning ordinance would cause an unwarranted hardship. Strict application of the zoning ordinance would require the applicant to meet the required 8-foot setback, which is the required setback in a suburban residential district. And item 4 is that granting a variance would not be contrary to the public interest and is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning district. Staff only received 1 phone call when this originally was applied for months ago. in opposition. Since then, what we have received, and it's in your packet, is a letter of support from the neighbor directly to the east, which would be the most effective current landowner. And again, that was a letter of support. If variance 1712 is approved, the applicant should be aware that he could not have any of the overhang of the property going over the property line. That was the major concern about the drainage, because in the county, we do allow a 2 feet to go of the overhang of the roof over your footprint. To remain in harmony with the City of Rapid City's approval, staff would recommend that variance 1712 be for 2.5 feet instead of the originally requested 1.4 feet. And if the Board of Adjustment approves variance 1712, staff would recommend 3 conditions.
Thank you, PJ. Anything else, sir?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, board, do we have any questions?
I just have one.
Commissioner Busker.
What changed with the city for 1 foot?
I wasn't involved in that. I just got the, originally part of it was that it would be dripping, because the overhang of the building, not just the footprint, the overhang, the roof line, would be dripping on the neighbor's property. That's what we first understood. Since then, the applicant moved it out and still stayed outside of the existing drainage easement, but the applicant is here today and can probably tell you about the process.
I hope they didn't spend a lot of time on that one.
This is,
Okay, do we have, is the applicant here for questions? Or anything you'd like to tell us, sir?
Logan Beckett. I'm gonna have a gutter system on the sidewall of the overhang for the soffit fascia, so no matter what, there will be no overhead water going over to the neighbor's yard. I have a deck right there on the side of the building, or on the side of my house, that's gonna be detached, and that's gonna be all paved. I'll drop down into my garage in the backyard. It's gonna be a 8x18 garage door, fully easy to get into. It's just a little close to that side fence is all.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? We have a motion.
So moved for
Moved by
approval.
DeSanto for approval. I'll second for discussion. Discussion board? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to come out of Board of Adjustment.
Motion to come out by Board of Adjustment by Mr. Buskird, Commissioner Buskird.
Second?
Second by Commissioner DeSanto. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on the consent agenda.
Sure.
B, C, and D. Planning Commissioner PJ, please.
Commissioner PJ, no, not you. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following items. Item B, Plan Unit Development Review 9301 for George Beaver, and the Planning Commission approved recommendation was approval. Item C, Plan Unit Development Review 0408 for 6S Properties LLC, and the Planning Commission recommended approval. Item D, Minor Plat 1726 and Subdivision Regulation Variance 1709 for Dean and Patricia Farr, and Planning Commission recommended approval with requested waivers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody from the public would like to pull anything, item B, C, and D from the consent agenda today to speak on? Anybody from the board that would like to pull any items B, C, and D from consent agenda today, from planning? If not, do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner LaCroy, second by Commissioner Buskird. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on regular agenda items, E through I.
Regular item E is a request for approval of a building permit outside the county subdivision regulations by Shadrach Howie. The applicant and the agent are in the audience today. This has been before you previously, and the applicant did speak. It was continued by the board so that a commissioner or two could go and visit the property. It was brought up again 2 weeks ago at the last meeting. It was continued so that the applicant could be here to speak on his behalf. Do you need me to go into any more history on this, or?
No, I think we're
Okay.
good. Was I that commissioner?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If I could speak first, if that's okay, Board. I did go out and look at actually all that property and surrounding area, and there's only one way, one in and out on that area, but there's also a lot of flat land where people can get out either from the south or not. There isn't as big a safety factor, I believe, as what we think in that area. Do people need a second access? I think they do in one sense, but it's not, there's not a big creek around it where they couldn't draw over it, or there's not an area where they couldn't pull south or go south and get into a safety zone, or unfortunately go across one of the farmers to the farmer ranchers to the east of that to the west of that bridge in that area where the subdivision, the first subdivision is. So I've changed my mind about, just from going out there, and thank you, Tom, from our highway department for taking me out there, because in one sense, people want a second access, and the other, they don't want more traffic and more area going out there. So we've went round and round on Bradsky Road with this, and I know Commissioner DeSanto has been to many meetings and met with many people out there, but I'm kind of torn between, I think you should be able to build out there because they can get out. It's not just a bridge that's the only way to get out or have a safety factor out there. And the other, I understand the 40 unit rule and safety on some of that, and then we're talking a paved road over a dirt road out there. So I don't believe if there's a safety factor where people can't get out, that they shouldn't be able to build. And you just keep adding to that issue. And then the other is, if there's areas where they can get out, and there's a lot of prairie out there where they could, have diversion areas where there wouldn't be a safety factor. We've been arguing this back and forth, and I'm not in the same agreement as what I started with because of that. And Tom driving me anywhere and everywhere out there on all the properties. So if it's a county rule that we have to have that, I understand, and we should follow the rules. But the other, if it's a safety factor on second access, there's other areas that people can get out. So that's my.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Commissioner DeSanto.
I have no problem with the additional 2 buildings going in. My problem is with future, past and beyond the 2 additional buildings going in. I firmly believe that the secondary access, if we're going to build more houses than the 2 that are already, that we've basically approved as far as the plating is concerned, if anything beyond that is to be built out there, we need a secondary access road. And because we don't want to be counting on encroaching upon someone else's property in order to get people out of there if there's an emergency. I understand that they can go south. It's quite a long ways south. But as I said, I have no problem with approving the 2 buildings that Shadrack wants to build right now.
Thank you. Commissioner LaCroix.
Personally, I'm not going to be in support of the motion for the simple fact that we denied somebody who split their lots and made them just further up on Bradsky Road and say that they would not build on it in board. So I'm not going to approve one and deny another. Me and Mark have had some great discussions on the secondary access. And I'm a firm believer, a lot of people buy their property knowing there's no secondary access, knowing that they don't want the traffic and so forth. And we have these limitations, and the problem is we let them go just as we're about to, could happen today. And then we come back and blame us again for saying we got to pay for a secondary access. I'm not willing to do that for that fact. I'm not going to support the motion. Doesn't mean I'm against anything. It's a principle. Gotcha. It's a principle that we made a decision earlier, and I'm not going to switch it over today.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Can I address that concern specifically?
Oh, sir, hold on.
Yeah.
Mr.
Just one
Shattuck.
point of clarification, if I may, Commissioner.
Yes.
The applicant has applied for one building permit and is going to apply for 2 additional, but just hasn't gone through the process yet. And we are aware of additional landowners who would like to build out there within the next 6 months.
Right.
Just
PJ,
bring it
just one
current.
question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
when we denied, if I recall, when we denied the last one, or the one that was there, and that Lloyd is, Commissioner LaCroix is talking about, that was one that was for a residence, right, with no expansion on that residence. Wasn't there already a residence on it?
What they had to do was split the lot because of a divorce proceedings in
Yes.
court. And what the restriction was is on the highlighted lot is that it was non-residential until a second ingress was found. And
Okay.
egress was found.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for clarifying that. Thank you, Mr. LaCroix. I couldn't remember on that, so. But I'm one of those that can change my mind based on information and looking at things. And again, if there was only one way to get in and out in that property, besides just that bridge, then I would be, and I thought that was the only issue back in the day. But now when I'm looking, again, you can go across the old section line, except there's an irrigation. But if you take a little bit to the right of that, and that's on the west side, you could actually go out and hit the section line on the west side and go straight north and get out. So that's what I'm saying, is that once Tom has taken and explained to me a little bit different of what's going on out there, I have a whole different perspective on second access in that area. So that's what I'm saying. Commissioner LaCroix.
I'm not, what I'm kind of saying is sometimes this is a flawed process. You know, you want more properties out in that area, so I think we need to, either someone needs to do a study and maybe change some of these requirements, because we've got them all over Pennington County where they're over 40. Maybe it needs to be changed, as long as there's, the road widths are wide enough, or there's, you know, I mean, there's some variance. But I mean, all of a sudden we get to this point where we're saying, oh, you're over your 40, you either no more or you build a second access. And me and Mark have had this discussion, we're working back and forth. I believe one way and another, and we need to either come up with something that's, we can stick with, or we're gonna continue to have this problem over and over and over.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCroix. Commissioner Fairby?
I heard you talk about the residents fleeing, fire or emergency of whatever kind. That's fine, but how do emergency vehicles, how's the Box Elder Fire Department, not the Box Elder, but the Rapid Valley Fire Department get over there, across the creek, if the road's blocked? How does the emergency vehicle get in there for somebody that's having a ticker problem, or a health problem? How do emergency vehicles get across that creek if that road's blocked?
Commissioner, are you talking about the bridge or the section line that's to the west?
How do emergency vehicles get across the creek if Bradski Road's blocked?
Go down, can I answer that? Is that okay? Commission, without being
ahead.
over disruptive. You'd go on to the west to the section line, and you'd have to cross preferably, and if there's an emergency, to the west, the rancher's land, and get onto the road that's in the, right. That's how you do it.
So how do you drive down a drainage ditch, irrigation ditch on the section line?
That section line is in a drainage ditch all the way out, Commissioner Farabee, if you drive that. That is a gravelled road. It goes from paved to gravelled.
Madam Chair,
Sure.
when you hit the fence, it's dirt from that point forward. And really, honestly, I mean, I don't know how often you've driven on that type of soil when it's wet, but when that type of soil gets wet, you're not driving on it. I mean, you might with big trucks or something like that, put chain up or something, but a regular vehicle getting across that field when we've had a good rain,
Right.
you're gonna be all over the place. It builds up on your tires and it's gumbo and you're done for. But I think what we're discussing right now is the 3 homes that he wants to,
Yes.
or 1 home of the 3 that he wants to build right now. I think that our discussion should continue in the future regarding an additional entrance, exit, ingress for that area, specifically because of what George just talked about, that if that bridge is impassable for whatever reason, we got a liability there that has to be addressed, because if it's all factors come together and it's rained hard or snowed a lot or whatever, nobody's coming down South Airport Boulevard and cutting across Stromer's land to get to that neighborhood and making it. Probably wind up with a line of tow trucks out there by the end of the day.
But if Mr. Shadrach wants to build 3 more houses and we let him build those houses, and then we say, okay, this isn't gonna work, we need to have emergency vehicles out there, we're letting people build out there, should the taxpayers of everybody else have to do the second access because of where people build?
Well,
that would be the question. So, I think that's the bottom line for most people on the second access. Or should it be the people that are out there that are doing the developments and stuff, or want to do 3 more houses? Because we believe as a commission, and Lloyd is right, where are we going with this?
I
Is it
think
about
that-
emergencies or?
I think that should definitely be a negotiation point. And I'm willing to sit down and talk with builders and neighbors, which I've already done some, to negotiate and see where we can get with that.
Just so everybody's clear, Commissioner Hadcock's correct, there's a section line going west and then going north across a really good bridge, South Airport Road Bridge. The problem is there's an irrigation ditch in the section line right away on the west end. And I don't know any vehicles, ordinary vehicles are gonna drive down the irrigation ditch.
I guess,
So we gotta fix the section line is there, which is an irrigation ditch there.
Commissioner Fairby, I know there's an irrigation ditch there, but that would be the one going from, I don't know what that street is there, but if you go from the paved area west, it's all dirt, and then it hits that irrigation ditch, and then if you go north, what they're saying on that irrigation ditch, if I'm correct, Tom, is there is an irrigation ditch, but maybe you don't have to cross the irrigation ditch until you get to that corner. So you would not go all the way to the irrigation ditch to cross, to get out. Or where that subdivision is, there's a road that goes straight out into the other man's property and goes west, and it does hit a gravel road. I never said that you had to stay on the section line. What I'm saying is if you stayed on the section line and went west, you'd have to curve off and you would hit an irrigation ditch, but you could still make it through onto the other section line. So
Madam Chair.
back onto subject.
Mind if I clarify? What
Go
George
ahead.
is saying is that the actual section line, because we looked at the survey pins.
That's right.
The actual section line is on the irrigation ditch. It's actually, if you drove down the section line, you'd run into a West River electric power pole as well. It's
Right.
impassable.
Right.
So what I think we're pointing out is that in order to exit that direction, you will wind up having to encroach on Mr. Stromer's property. And that's not fair either, to have to. Now, Mr. Stromer is more than willing to work with us and to resolve that problem. But not on a, yeah, you can go this day and you can't go the next day. We need to get something solid put in use. And he wants, if he's gonna work with us, he wants a road built there. He doesn't want, and not a paved road, but something that's not gonna wash out, a road, so forth and so on, so.
Thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
I just wanted to reiterate, I've heard twice now about the liability of not having the second access. And here we are adding on to the liability and there's gonna be more coming. there's gonna be more building permits coming. So, I'm just reiterate what I said before, and, I think we need to move forward.
Okay, Shadrach, you're
Madam
up, sir.
Chairman, I have one thing.
Okay, Commissioner Busker.
I agree with Lloyd that, all right, this is just one house. We can break the rules for one house. Well, we're already looking at 2 more houses. We're gonna break the rules for them. We just heard our department head say, well, in the next 6 months, there's gonna be more. So when do you plan on saying no? This one, 2 more, 6 more, 10 more? I know you don't like to say no, but there comes a time you have to say no.
I guess my question it would be to PJ. It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that we've basically already set these lots aside for building. With the assumption that they were going to get built on these 3 particular lots. Is that correct?
Correct. This subdivision was created in 2006.
Okay. Are there other lots that we've already basically given permission that once they get a building permit, they can build on out there? Or are they going to have to come before us and ask us for that?
So most of the subdivisions and the unplatted property out there are going to be in the same situation.
They are.
Yes. This subdivision specifically was platted in 2006, but the 40 limit was exceeded in 2002 for Bradsky Road. And there were subdivisions created even after that.
Okay.
Could I just address their concerns, just put it to bed?
Yes, sir.
The property you're talking about.
Name, sir?
Shadrach Howie, thank you, sir,
Thank you,
Deb.
sir.
The property you're talking about was last 10 months, this property was 2006. Your question is, where do we stop? At what point do we quit issuing building permits? Start today, but these specific building lots are the ones we're talking about. Just because I waited 10 years to build on them doesn't diminish the fact that they were approved and ready to go. So what I'm trying to simplify for you is that you compare apples to apple, Ron, and you guys, that's great. People, if I come in, I've got more property out there that I'll be getting. If you want my help, Mark, building the secondary access, I got a way better plan, but if this is a hard matter, you're not gonna have my support. I could help you guys do it. Everybody'd win at the end of the day. So would I. But what we're talking about is these 3 lots, and Ron, where do you stop? You stop at the builder, Shadrach Howie, that comes in next month and says, PJ, I want to plat this and build on it. Well, we're not doing that until we get a secondary access. It makes sense. It's I bought these in good faith. It's a big investment. Lloyd, I expect a yes out of you because this is not comparable to the project you said no on 10 months ago. I mean, it's, even in the last, since 2006, we're talking about 3 lots that were platted. Shadrach Howie, the business owner, shows up, and I'm not a big business owner. I need your blessing once again. I've already got it the first time. I don't want any legal anything. I just want to move forward. And then lastly, Commissioner Furby, what you're doing is, legitimate. You're worried about emergency, there again, I'd like to help Mark and you guys. I want a bridge, but today we're talking about old news. And I get it, guys, where do you stop? But that's up to you guys, and moving forward, sounds like you've made that decision. If it's not platted, you're not building on it. And it's we can all walk away feeling good about it. But guys, this is a simple deal. It's not, I lost 2, I've had a lot of other work to do, but I've lost 2 good building months. I'm not blaming anybody. But let's put this behind us, and I mean, I'm here to help, guys. I want people to win. I don't want any liability on you. This chapter technically should have been closed. Let's move forward and just stop it there. But I got 3 platted lots I want to build on, guys, and I've been real patient. And moving forward, I'd like to help you.
So, Mr. Shadrach, you said you got the building permits in 2006?
No, it was platted in 2006.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
platted.
Maybe I did say that, but it,
Okay.
yeah,
And you're looking for building permits today?
that's correct.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I was very interested in his comment about he's got a lot better plan than going out through Stromers or going west on the section line.
Yeah.
What's your plan?
Well, I'd love to share that with you. Let's get by the easy stuff, and I'll be instrumental in that. And your south side ditch that you're talking about, Furby, is, I grew up there. There's about from there over to the sewer treatment plant. There's I think 15 crossings in the event of an emergency. And I mean, I get it, guys. We need a bridge. We need a better secondary access. But the best solution is in my back pocket, and I'd like to, down the road, PJ and I'd like to have another development out there. We'd like to be building some homes, right? We're partners now.
We are? Okay. You want to sign?
Absolutely. What I'm getting at, guys, is down the road, that will be a legitimate concern is more building permits. But today we're talking about 3 building permits that were applied a long time ago. The property that you brought up, you probably made the right decision on. That was in the last 10 months. You don't want that liability. But these are old. Moving forward, it's in your, give me some questions that are hard. But Ron, I'm trying to keep this as basic as possible, and I'd like to move forward on a good note. But we gotta. I mean, this shouldn't even be a hurdle. Let's get over it and go.
Madam Chair, how many lots are platted out there?
That's what I was just
across
going to
that
ask.
creek?
Thank you, Commissioner Farabee.
I don't know the number.
Is there a
Roughly,
lot?
roughly, just. I don't-
Additional?
Just roughly.
I'm not sure.
Platted lots.
Can Gil?
Hold on,
I'm sorry.
sir.
He would
Well, I
know.
know there's
There's a question.
72 with address points. And that includes platted and unplatted.
We're talking about platted lots, just the same as Mr. Shadrack.
Platted and unplatted.
So you're talking just a lot.
So there's over 72
So-
address points. So that's a address for a living unit.
So we're saying that, I guess what I'm asking for is if there's 72 additional lots platted, then to be fair, then if we let Mr. Shadrack do his platted lots, then those other 72 should be let.
No,
Platted.
No, there's
Tell me what
72
you're saying.
currently.
there's only my 3 platted lots out there
Yeah.
currently.
That's what I'm asking. So
How
is-
mmore more on top of this is what you
are
wanna know.
platted in the same situation as Mr. Shadrack?
If we're looking at looking at their subdivision alone, so this is a 2016 picture, but I don't think you have any other houses out there, right? So the 3 that are highlighted are the ones in question right now. So in this subdivision alone, you're looking at possibly
That are
4
platted?
to 5.
Okay.
We'll have to see if it's platted.
That are already platted.
Yeah?
How many in backcountry?
No, so PJ, the blue, we've only got 3 that are not built on, and then
One,
there is
two,
that one
3.
at the top is a different owner.
This one?
No, the big one over there,
Here?
that's, the other red would be the.
But not you, Shadrack. What I'm talking about is how many others in that area that are platted
One.
and have the same situation that we would have to vote on later and say, okay, there's 12 more, because these have been platted and they have the same situation
Correct.
as you.
There's one more.
Just in your subdivision or that area? That's what I'm asking.
Madam Chair,
On the
people,
second access.
people are allowed to apply for building permits on unplatted land. That happens a
Right.
lot in the county. So it wouldn't be just limited, if you're looking to apples, then it would be platted lots, but there are more than just that available in that area.
Dang.
South of Bradsky Bridge, I believe, is one additional platted lot, though. Does that sound right, PJ?
South of,
South of the bridge, there should only be, that is not built on, there's only one more platted lot I'm aware of that does not have a structure on it.
well, we got these in this
So those 2
subdivision.
are actually built on.
Yep, then we got this one. This lot, well, that's not the right one. Why did it highlight?
So that comes into play what Mr. Buskirk and Mr. LaCroix are saying, that if there's still other people besides Shadrack out there that have those platted and we're comparing apples to apples, then in all fairness, not in just that subdivision, but any platted land out there that's wanting to build should be able to build.
Maybe the defining factor is a platted residential lot, because that is being,
Okay.
I mean, Kel, do you want to can Kel comment, because he He put it
Yes,
to
sir.
bed here.
Cale, if you'd like to come up, sir.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Cale McNabo. I own Spurlick Consulting. I represent the applicant in this item. Yeah, I think that really you're on the right track with this. And we have the 3 residential lots that Shadrack's looking at building. And your idea of trying to limit it going forward, I think is best tied to the planning actions. Now, if we talk about having roughly, I think there's 1 more lot out there that's not built on beyond those 3 that are currently platted lots. I'm not seeing the other platted lots in this vicinity. Now, PJ was correct when he said you can get a building permit on a, basically an unplatted balance if it's in excess of 40 acres, is it, PJ?
Nope, it doesn't have to be.
As long as it's any form of a balance?
Yep, as long as you can fit it.
So, yeah, there are opportunities, I guess, if you owned 20, 30, 40 acres, the state law, I believe, allows you to get 1 building permit on it. But I think the heart of this matter is we're looking at lots that were platted in 2006, and I believe it represents, on the commissioner's behalf, or on the county commission's behalf, a commitment made at that point to allow them to be platted as residential lots. And then our client went into this with the assumption that he was going to be able to build on them. And ultimately, I realized where we're at and what's driven this is probably the bridge issue. When we think about the bridge issue, I know the county commission or the county's got a plan for resolving this in next year. And you look at the opportunity to build the buildings this year, we're not looking at a big overlap. So let's say that it takes 2, 3, 4 months to put these houses together, and your bridge project starts in March and completes midsummer. I don't know if so you're not talking about years before the bridge comes live and active. You're talking about a very short span of time, in which case, you have 3 additional occupants of those houses, but then the bridge comes online. As far as the second access goes, I think there's a lot of opportunity to move south on that and not necessarily chase down the section line going west.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I'm wanting to base my decision on, I guess, what would be considered the spirit of the agreement that we had made, our previous commissioners had made in 2006. Not necessarily, or not going forward from here, but keeping our agreement with someone that was already made before we ever got here. And I think that if people come in the future and ask to build, that's where I will go. I'll go back to the spirit of, look, we platted these with the thought that this gentleman was going to build. He didn't build for 10 years. But really, when he went in and platted them, the commissioners at that time knew that he was platting them to build on them. So I'm making my decision based on the spirit of what happened, not on what could happen right down the road from now. And I believe that between Merlin and Shadrack and other residents out there, I think we can get the issue resolved as far as the secondary access is concerned. Probably without costing the county too much money, which I would like to also address. If we build, and I've talked to Lloyd about this, if we do put in that secondary access and make it more accessible to get into that property, that's going to encourage development. And by encouraging development, and I've pointed this out many times in other areas, we're going to increase the county's revenue from taxes. So in the long run, that secondary road will encourage additional revenue for the county down the road from now.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I understand when we did the plat, change to split those lots, I understand that's different from what this is. I understand that what happened in 2006 is different from that. I understand that. One of the other things that we don't understand here, is back then also, there was promises of roads being put in for any further expansions, and we looked into trying to find out who was responsible for that, and it didn't happen. So to come up here and tell me you expect me to vote some way is wrong.
I'd love to address that. So what you're.
No, I am talking now.
Hold on
Okay.
a second, sir.
I'm sorry, I thought that was a question.
You know-
I apologize.
You're out of order.
No, I'm not.
Sorry.
No, he is.
And I apologize,
He
I misunderstood that was not a question.
He's learning. Thank
You know what?
It can be taught.
All I'm trying to say is I understand those differences, and I was making my point that we need to find a solution. And I guess I get a little defiant when someone tells me point blank how I should vote.
Okay, I appreciate your point of view, sir.
Does he have the floor?
Sir, go ahead.
I'm sorry,
You go through her.
All right, madam. So just to once again clarify what I'm trying to tell you, your argument is basically there was a promissory secondary access that was never delivered. Here's the backstory to that. The original development was for 160 homes. This was the first part of it, and I tried my very diligent best to explain that to you the first time. This is an isolated development. The secondary access was down the road. That development never happened. It was on the table to be done. So you guys are looking ahead like that is, we've already got another 200 homes out there, guys. So when I'm telling you, here's how you should vote, I'm not telling you because it's a conscience deal. I'm telling you because it's a factual deal. We're talking about 3 lots that were platted, totally isolated from secondary even being part of that equation yet. So when I tell you how you should vote, I'm not being threatening. I'm just simply saying this is the black and white gospel truth. I want to get past it and move forward, guys. I don't want any hurt feelings. I want you guys sending me a Christmas card. I don't, I'm just doing my,
I'm gonna stop you for a sec. First, you went after me the first meeting, and then you went after Lloyd the second. So part of us learning what you do is some of that respect for what we do.
Yes.
And that's what we're asking, sir, when you're up here. Okay? So I appreciate that, and I did go do the work. But now I'm told that I was thinking that this would be okay to do 3, because I believed that when I went out there, people could get out. Now, 2 commissioners just told me that's not gonna happen. They've changed my mind, because they told me you can't go on that section line, and you're not gonna go through those emergency vehicles and that flat land, and you can't go south.
Interesting. Well, guys.
So, nope, I got the floor. So I was thinking it was okay for people to go ahead and build out there now, and I do change my mind, and I do have that right, and I do say no sometimes. But what I do is go look at the information. If I could go south, I could get out. My family's not threatened by having to go over a bridge. But then I was convinced now that we need that secondary access, and those emergency vehicles, if that bridge is shut down, nobody's gonna get help. So why would I approve 3 lots if I was just told that? I wouldn't. And just because you did it for apples, they just said it, apples to apples, there's other lots. So now, we can't just do yours. And we do have an emergency vehicle issue now out there that can only serve through one bridge right now. You want to help us do that second access and get it done? You'll convince me, but now I've got my mind changed just from listening to 2 other people saying that ain't happening, and if it happens soon enough, sir, I'm gonna vote for your stuff, but right now, I've got my mind changed.
I'd ask for a continuance then, and I'll have an attorney here. You guys want to make this hard, it sucks. That's your decision, Deb. It's your decision, it's your decision. Guys, that sucks. I'll ask for a
It
continuance.
doesn't suck. What it does is, we have to be convinced that it's a good way, and it's not by being rude to people, Shadrach.
I'm not being rude, Deb. Based on your question to me, I'm answering it in the best fashion that I can. And Lloyd, I'm doing the best I can to answer your question so that there's no room for gray. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not a professional litigator. I'm just presenting the information in my own fashion.
Thank
If
you.
I've come across as rude, I am very apologetic, but I'm trying to be decisively clear on what I'm asking and why.
But what
And-
we're finding is gray area. That gray area that you say is cut and dry is not. If we
Okay.
keep finding it, I just thought I found the gray area for you.
I have a motion, Madam Chair.
So, thank you. Commissioner,
I have a motion. I move that we continue this item until such time as we have a firm plan in place for second access to that area across Rapid Creek.
I'll second for discussion. Discussion on the motion, please.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner LaCroy.
you know, I'm not so much in support of continuing. I think the secondary access needs further discussion, and I think Jack could help with that. I think there probably does need to be some legal advice brought forward to us. So I'm not in opposition of continuing it till he can bring his attorney and wants to discuss it with us. I mean, I think we're all pretty high strung right now, and I think a couple weeks could help that.
I appreciate that, and I'm not mad. I'm just convinced by education and what is told to me on here, and I base my decision, because I thought I had one, because I did do my homework, and then I was told no. So it's not like, there is a gray area, obviously, because I thought there was. But the bottom line is if there's other lots platted at the Shadrach, we need a second access and we need to find that solution. We're not trying to make you mad. We're trying to find something here that could make you build another 100 homes out there. It's not, this isn't about you as much as you think we're doing this to you. We're not trying to. We're looking for the safety and the whole thing as a county commissioner. What's the bottom line? So what we learned up here, and I learned up here today, is something different than I thought. And maybe consider that and then discuss it with DeSanto or me or others of how we can move that forward instead of I got to get an attorney. Because I can tell you, it's a lot more expensive that way than it is finding the solution, not only for yourself, but for others. Because everybody's looking for that out there. And if you want to work with me and Mark or other people to do that, so you're not delayed like you're saying, I think that's a better solution than getting mad.
And I apologize if I come across as mad. I'm just doing my level best to look you in the face and tell you what I know is fact.
And I
it sounds
appreciate
like
that.
the number one concern is the commission's liability and an emergency response. Now, one of my really good friends that lives up the road is a Life Flight pilot, and I mean, there's guys, brush trucks can get in and out. I mean, it's still a concern. But you know, my black and white mentality here is simply that I did my homework the last two meetings, and my side hasn't changed. So I want a decision out of you, and I want to move forward. If I can't get that, you know, I have to have an attorney, guys. I'm not threatening you. I'm not mad, but I need forward motion, and to expect me to give you the solution free of charge without even, I mean, guys, we got to work together or we don't. It's got to be a mutual thing. Now, fine, you guys are undecided. Be solely sold out, committed one way or the other, because you know there's always going to be what ifs and how come, and I mean, moving forward, deny a building permit on something that isn't residentially platted. It's simple, but you know, today looking back, I mean, I thank you for your time. I expect a decision. I'll have, you know, the continuance, I'll have an attorney and he'll play nice, but I just don't like doing this. It's, my facts aren't gonna change, and, you know, bringing in other elements, you know, of you know, promised secondary route, those types of things. I mean, guys, those are not relevant to my 3 lots. I wanna just be
Madam
clear.
Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, that's totally untrue. Somebody drew the safety line at 40. Whether that's a good number or not, I don't know, but that's where the safety. This is not about liability, this is about people's safety. How would you feel if somebody couldn't get to the hospital, or somebody had a fire, and couldn't get across the creek? That's safety, that's human safety. That's what this is about, and somebody drew the line at 40. There's a lot more than 40 residences out there. This is about safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the board?
Madam Chair,
We do have a motion on the floor, board.
while I agree with George that this is about safety, I also know that after study with PJ and the paperwork and listening to Shadrach and then going back and looking at it again, that 40 limit applied to a different subdivision. It didn't apply to the subdivision that he's asking to build in, from what I understand. Am I correct?
It's part of the subdivision regulations. This lot specifically has a note, the subdivision specifically has a note that if it exceeds a certain number of platted lots and units, that they have to build a second means of ingress and egress. This particular subdivision has ingress and egress, 2 of them. What we're looking at is a dead-end road system, which is the entirety of Bradsky Road, all the subdivisions that are there, the platted lots, the unplatted properties. That's what we're looking at as a safety issue.
Gotcha.
Thank you. We do have a motion on the floor. Ms. Kara, can you read that for us again?
To continue this item until there is a firm plan in place for a second access.
PJ, can you give me advice of what you think of that motion, please? And why it's,
First concern is we'd like to put a time on it. The second concern is the applicant has asked for continuation to 2 weeks. So I don't know, he'd probably have his attorney or a representation here within 2 weeks before a firm plan is in place.
well, for
So
me,
I
the
think,
go ahead.
in my
Sorry.
opinion, to be fair, if we could put a time limit on it.
My continuation's not his concern with his lawyer. My continuation is if in 2 weeks we can come up with some start of solution on it, not with Mr. Shadrach doing it, but we're supposed to have a public meeting out there. And I truly believe I need to see if people want to have a secondary access in the first place. Because what we think and what people want is 2 different things. So, I don't know.
So you want me to?
Board?
Madam Chair, what I'm hearing you say is you want me to call for a public meeting with those residents, all those residents, or as many as can show up.
And if that's what the continuation is about, I will support it. Because I think it's something for working towards the next solution and getting Mr. Shadrach and everybody out there what they need in order to move forward. Because again, I support both sides of this because it does bring taxpayer dollars and more money. When Mr. Shadrach gives us more property taxes or anybody else, that's towards roads and bridges and other things as well. But I also see that there's, you gotta change the rules and regs or do something different out there. And that's why I could have changed my mind on that, because I believe, I've been to meetings, I'll say it up straight, I've been to meetings where people always said, we need a second access. Well, that was what the city council thought, and that's not what the residents thought. But then we used the 40-unit rule against them, only when we wanted to, as Mr. LaCroix said, and in this case, I was going to change my mind for any kind of building out there, not just Mr. Shadrach's for the future. So I wasn't just saying no once and then changing. I actually went and looked out there and figured there wasn't a safety problem. So, all right.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner LaCroix.
I'd like to make, no, we already got a
Nope. you'd be-
substitute motion to continue this to the next commission meeting.
Okay. Is there a second? I would second that if there was a meeting in the meantime for the residents out there that was added to it so we could actually see what was going on out there and if that's really the main issue is the secondary access and if there is no other solution out there. But, okay, substitute dies for lack of second. Commissioner Farabee, your motion is on the floor. Any discussion on the original motion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
4 yeses and 1 no with Commissioner DeSanto voting no. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Sir?
who do I talk to about getting advertisements so that we can, Holly?
Ms. Hawley, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll get to work on that.
Thank you, sir. F.
Item F is Plan Unit Development Review 0902 for the Salvation Army to review Salvation Army Camp as a plan unit development. This has been before you a few times. The major concern was, came down to basically the existence of an emergency preparedness guidelines. It was looked at by Dustin Willett from our Emergency Management Office. He's not in the practice of approving them, but he did review it. There's also been comments from our fire coordinator, Jerome Harvey. The applicant has also met with representatives from South Dakota Division of Wildland Fire to discuss permitting and approvals needed for fire-related activities. The applicant did submit, and you should have a black and white copy of the most recent emergency preparedness guidelines. That was in addition to the staff report. The applicant is Major Nathan Johnson. He is in the audience today if you have any questions. But after the comments from Mr. Willett, Mr. Harvey, and also the emergency preparedness guidelines being submitted, staff would recommend approval of the continuation of 0902 with 21 conditions.
Thank you, Mr. PJ.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions, board, for the applicant or PJ? I'm the one of them that had concern on this. My issue is, we just talk about secondary access. We have a Thunderhead Falls Bridge, and we have a encampment and houses and people that would stay in these cabins with surrounded creek all the way around it, with one access. And what I see is that they would, the electrical one, where did I see it? Oh, they would emergency alert sounded, meet on the road between the pavilion and Rapid Creek, and then head away from the Rapid Creek to the highest ground behind the 2 log cabins. Can, maybe the major can explain, where's the higher ground by the cabins when you're surrounded by a creek, sir, and you have to go across the bridge in order to get to this property when you first go in? Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Nathan Johnson. I'm a major. I've been here for a couple of years. This is my first camp inspection and things like that. We're trying to comply with everything. It was also my first attempt to upgrade an evacuation plan that was written some years ago. I've met with one person from the wildfire place for fuel mitigation plan, and I took him for a little whirlwind tour around the camp, and all he told me was, well, rake up the pine cones around the lodge and everything else is looking good. So I've been here 2 years now. My first year, just a little history, is that I took out 4 dumpsters of wood that was laying down in the ground, birch that had probably been there some 20 years. Pine cone pickup is a regular thing. It's my personal work therapy after I leave the office, I and the maintenance man. And so we took out 4 dumpsters of fallen debris and branches and grass mowings. This year we were down to 2 because everything had been picked up on the lot. And we make it a nice park-like atmosphere for the neighborhood in Thunderhead Falls. And we have the annual neighborhood picnic, and so relations have been built there where they were once strenuous. There's the cabins. I'm trying to read this. The item on the evacuation plan is if we got a flood. So what happens is the water rolls down from the dam and comes through there. And so we have these cabins. And so in the event of the flood, the highest point is, I'm not sure how to do this, behind the cabins, I guess the mountain ridge, is that here, or? I'm trying to see where exactly the cabins are. Is these the cabins here? So up here on the highest ridge here would be, because the creek is down below, I guess, so the highest point would be there in case of flood. So I just tried to pick the highest point on the campground.
So let me ask you
We
something.
have had flooding there before.
Right.
And so that goes down on the lower part of the camp, but it never reaches up to where the pavilion is or where the lodge is or the kitchen or the bathhouses is. So there's an incline and everything goes up the hill. So the highest point is up behind the cabins, up on the ridge.
Well, how high is the ridge you're talking about?
Oh,
Is it 10 feet above elevation, 20 feet above where that surrounded water is?
no, it's higher than that. I'm not the greatest at,
I've hiked up there, Madam Chair, and I'd say it's 40 feet.
So it's high enough.
from the creek,
Yeah, or even higher.
at least.
Yeah.
Your,
40
your,
to 55 feet.
your
somewhere in
property is beautifully kept, sir. My issue is just from being in the 72 flood, it only takes once.
We know
And
which an
the-
officer lost his life, Salvation Army officer lost their life in that flood. And
I knew
I'm
him.
happy that's not a prerequisite to be here, because my wife and I love this area. And we were doing with a lot of different things to make it just a real park-like atmosphere.
So how'd that area fare during the flood? Was it wiped out? Did
We
all the
lost-
structures?
Are you talking about that flood, or like when Pectola was opened up a couple years ago? We lost some shoreline down below.
Right.
But we have an area where people put tents down there. It hadn't reached any of the tent area, because that was 10 feet up from where the creek level is. So from the creek, it continues to rise. It plateaus a little bit, and then where the road comes up, from there it goes up. And so when they're up behind the cabins, they're up at the highest peak.
To me, it just, I don't know. I don't know.
Even the cabins are set up, so they're not like down where the creek is. So before you even get to the cabins, you're already at 25 feet above the creek.
Right.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
I understand Deb's concerns. But as we were looking at the previous property, when she's talking about secondary access, I think this is probably a little bit different. But, you know, a lot of things have changed since 1972. You know, we're working on some other stuff where, you know, our alert systems are way better than they were now. I mean, if you look at Katrina and some of these other ones, we've had a week's notice before stuff started coming, because technology has changed so much since those. So I would, that's why I was kind of looking at even some of our flash flood things that you got down that you're gonna do. It really doesn't address that technology has changed. These are still kind of old ones that just all of a sudden happened and we're supposed to go up on high ground. And the reason why I bring this up is because Don Burnett used to talk quite heavily about this. Back in 1972, when the flood happened, when they lost TV, you know, the communication back then was landline TV, and when they lost some of them, it was, they had to go to house, and nowadays, we've got the sirens, we've got cell phones, and we got it way advanced notice, so I think things are a little bit different from way back. And you just mentioned something about the releasing of the dam caused damage, and you had noticed that was
Yes, sir.
happening.
Yes, sir. We had some erosion down by the creek. We lost some land, you know, maybe 10 feet back on our property line in certain areas when they opened Pectola. So, this is my first attempt at writing an evacuation plan. I talked with Richard Smith of the Red Cross. He gave me a couple ideas. I would be happy to meet with someone. I ended up taking a lot of my vacation late this year because I had quadruple bypass in February, and as a result, I had to so I've been gone lately, but I'd be happy to work with someone. It was just today that I got a hold of Mr. Smart, because in the areas to address with Johnson siding, I could never get an answer at the volunteer station. So now I have him, and he's coming out next week, because not only do you have to have smoke detectors in certain places, fire extinguishers have to be at 5'3". So I might have one at 4 feet. So what I want to do is get the professionals out so that I have what I'm required to have. Some of the cabins, I don't know if I need monoxide detectors because they just have little electric heaters on the wall. It's only open from like May to October, so we don't have gas in the cabins and things like that. So I might need something here that I don't need there. And so if I get the professionals out, and if there is someone that I could be directed to, with the evacuation plan to come out and meet me. I had Mark come out, you know, with fuel mitigation. I've never even heard of such a thing. And I was kind of surprised that after touring the camp with me, all he said was rake up the pine needles around the lodge. And so I'm hoping that maybe Saturday we even seed that out there because it's kind of barren around there. And so, you know,
Okay.
I'm happy to, because we want to be compliant. So I'm
Sir,
happy
do
to
you
work.
have internet out there? Does your internet work out there,
At
your
the
cell
house.
phones? At the house, but not in the cabins or
Actually
anything?
live
so
out there.
you'd be-
No, they don't have internet access at the cabins.
So you can hear the siren from there, is that what you're saying,
No, I'm
Lloyd?
just saying, in general, some things changed from the past.
Right, and that's my concern, is I appreciate that, but some of those areas haven't changed in how they're getting notified and stuff because of internet and everything doesn't work.
The cell phones and everything still work out there, so, you know, I'm able to text and check email and stuff from down in the camp limits, but we have the Wi-Fi at the house.
Thank
Because
you.
we actually live out there.
So where was the land wiped out when you said that they let Pactola out and wiped out, was it,
Where
Like the
exactly is
bottom
the creek
corner?
on, is this the creek down here?
yes, sir?
So we just lost some along the surface, you know.
On where, the curb
My
is?
plot here,
Yeah, the lot lines are not accurate.
and is the creek down here, or is
It's the
the,
dark circle that goes around.
this is the creek here?
Or I can, hold on one second, I'll bring this back up for you. Creek is that dark line.
Okay, and the cabins are back there. So we lost some like down in here.
Where's your drawing? Sorry,
Is that the creek right there? Does red, where I just,
okay.
yeah.
That's not much.
And the house is to the left
think-
of that, and the north is the cabins? Where's the house and the cabins on that property, PJ?
Is this the house?
Yeah, hold on, let me change color. Correct.
Okay, so I'm kind of looking at this backwards to what I'm used to, because I'm used to, okay, so here's the main driveway, and the cabin's here. So this is the creek here as well.
Yeah, they don't know
You
what you're
were-
pointing
I
at.
can't
though.
see where you're.
Okay, so right here is where we lost some,
Yeah, I don't.
because the ridge is up here, correct?
Okay, PJ, where's the, I can't see it on there for some
Okay,
reason.
hold on a second.
Okay,
That's okay.
The map is turned around the way I'm used to looking at, okay, so the house is, okay, the house is over there.
Okay, so,
So that's our main road. Okay,
the
so that's
house.
the ridge. This is the part down here.
that's the house.
Yeah, so, okay. So the
Okay, so
house
the-
is down there, okay. So down in here, we lost some.
So the house is the lower part surrounded more in the cabins, if you, when you were talking about they could just walk up, you
The ridge,
really
the
meant they could
ridge, the
walk.
ridge that goes up here, this is the high part. And the ridge also goes behind the house.
Okay,
So the house is set up, the cabins are set up, everything is set up. The main road that goes through here, this is kind of, equal to where people tent, and then it goes down another 10 feet, 12 feet to, the creek area. And the highest ridge is up there, and that's why I put meet up behind the cabins.
thank you, sir.
Madam Chair, to put things in perspective, when you're full up, how many individuals are there on that site?
Well, it gets used a couple times, big time, but no more than 100. That's the capacity.
Including tents, you could have up to 100 people there.
Exactly, up to 100, right. Not normally, we don't have anything over 80 and most times 40. Locally, we've had schools come out for an afternoon, some family gatherings, usually 50, 60.
Just trying to put in context with the level of 40, and that's 40 residences, and the residence is what, 3-point-some people in that neighborhood? So,
Yeah, we have 15 acres out there.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Commissioner DeSanto, you said there was a ridge there, so if there was 100 people there, they could just go up on the ridge and the creek would be still surrounded by it, but they wouldn't.
get swept away?
Right.
Oh, yeah. The water would have, Pactola would have to literally flow down the entire lake. Would have before,
Before it got them?
yeah.
Okay.
It's way out of the 500-year
Yeah.
floodplain, you know, and.
Okay.
Isn't gonna happen.
Thank you for that information, sir.
I have a motion, Madam Chair, is to move approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Farabee and second by Commissioner Buschrood. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that explanation, sir.
Great pictures, too.
It's a nice place.
All right, are we ready for item G?
Ready.
All right, item G is a first reading and public hearing of Major Plan Unit Development Amendment 1708. This is, oh, sorry, I'm Cassie Bolstead, by the way, Assistant Planning Director. This is a request to amend the existing Rushmore Ranch Estates Plan Unit Development to change the use of Tract 43 from commercial to residential, and the request also included allowing the use of a bed and breakfast on the subject property. As this property exists today, it is zoned plan unit development. It's 3.88 acres. It's currently vacant. The Rushmore Ranch Estates Planned Unit Development was first.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
Keep going, Cassie, please, in respect of Ms. Cassie.
We don't really need to hear all that. Let's move approval.
I'd like to hear it. Anybody else? Okay, keep going, Ms. Cassie.
Thank you. It was first approved in 1994, most recently amended in 2006. The amendment in 2006 was actually much this same request. They changed the use of Tract 42, which is directly across the street, to residential from commercial as well. I did want to clarify one thing on here. When the application for this came in, it was a request to amend from commercial to residential and to allow bed and breakfast. That request was done by the agent, and the current property owners, after that application came in, sent an email to our office stating that they were unaware of the request for a bed and breakfast, and at this point in time, they did not want a bed and breakfast to be included in the request. If future property owners do desire to have a bed and breakfast, they can go through this same process again and amend the PUD again, but the current owners did not want that in the request. So staff and the Planning Commission did recommend approval of Major Plan Unit Development Amendment 1708 solely to change the use of Tract 43 from commercial to residential, not to approve the bed and breakfast use with 12 conditions.
Second.
Move approval.
Motion by Commissioner Farabee, second by Commissioner Buschrood. Is there anybody in the public that'd like to speak on this? Okay, if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. H, please, Ms. Cassie.
H was actually PJ's, but I'll jump in here and see if I can do it for you. PJ stepped out for just a second. So item H is a layout plat request and a subdivision regulations variance request. This is a request.
Move approval.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Discussion, Ms. Cassie, go ahead.
I don't have anything unless PJ does.
No, sorry, I was
Item
working with the
H.
FedEx guy out there.
Been a motion by Commissioner Farabee and a second by Buschrood. Do you have discussion, PJ?
No, ma'am, it's layout plat, and for the purposes of that, they meet everything.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Number I.
I is another layout plat request to reconfigure lot lines in Spring Creek Acres to create Tract 52 revised and Tract 53 revised. The applicants here are Josh and Lindsay Richardson. This property is currently 4 kind of interesting parcels. It consists of these 4 highlighted parts. What they are wanting to do is they are wanting to reconfigure the interior lot lines to create 2 lots, 2 larger lots rather than 4 lots. Tract 52 revised would be 20.31 acres. Tract 53 revised would be 18.93 acres. Both of these parcels would take access off of Alkin Lane. There is a section line that runs across Tract 52 revised. The section line right-of-way was vacated on that in 2012. And this is located within a planned unit development. This request would decrease density within this subdivision by 2 lots, and this request doesn't appear to violate any of the conditions for the planned unit development. The layout plat does indicate that there would be 20-foot minor drainage easements along the front and rear property lines and 10-foot minor drainage easements along all side property lines. That was recorded on a previous plat and will carry forward into this plat. And if this layout plat is approved, they can then continue on to the minor plat, which also has to be approved by the planning commission in this body prior to filing it. So staff and the planning commission had recommended approval of layout plat 1725 with 7 conditions.
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Farabee, second by Commissioner DeSanto. Any discussion? How about from the public? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir?
Hi, I'm sorry. Just wanted to clarify if, item H,
Okay,
one previous to this,
okay.
if the motion included the subdivision regulations and the layout plat.
Yes.
Okay. Well, is that okay with the seconder?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Busker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We're good to go. We're on 18 items from chair and commission members. Do we have anything we need to bring forward? From chair or commission? Commissioner Farabee?
We should, we should revisit our petitioning policy. There's been a little bit of disagreement on what the petitioners can do if the folks getting signatures upstairs. I think we need to, because there's apparently a disagreement on how that policy should be interpreted. I think we ought to revisit it. We have 2 new members, and let's go over the policy again next meeting.
Thank you.
I agree.
And I'm not against that, and I did have that person call me and visited with them, and then visited with Kevin Tome, and they did come up with, you know, what was a good solution, so I appreciated that. But I still believe, like Mr. Farabee, we should revisit it. It hasn't been done for a while, it sounds like. So are we just bringing the policy forward and adding to it, or are we going to have someone in charge of working with the staff to do this?
I think we should, my thoughts are just to have it in the packet and let's review it here and then take a look at it. I don't
Okay, sir.
necessarily know if it's got to be reviewed and replaced or changed, but let's just all take another look at it. So we
Okay.
all know what it says.
We'll have Holly bring that forward then, if that's okay.
And I would add to that, ask the sheriff to find out from his folks what, the new folks, what their interpretation, there's apparently a new batch of folks that, so have the sheriff come prepared to give us his side of the story, so to speak.
Thank you. And I think there were, on that point, there wasn't a side, they just, one group of people and another group had a different idea, and he wasn't there, so they ended up finding the solution, and they're doing good with it. But I still think we need to look at the policy.
Yeah.
Because it could be updated. That's been done a long time ago, George. Okay, number 19, committee reports.
Well, I got one other thing for items from chair, or, I think, we'll probably send out an email or something this week. Remember, we talked about, I had Holly do some research on application process for appointments to committee members, different committees. What it brought, and she did a good job with it. I've reviewed it, but I think maybe we'll get it to every commissioner to kind of review. What brought this to light is at the extension meeting last night, they're up for reappointment in January too, so I think we need to kind of try and hack out some of these processes of appointments and so forth, so. Just to let you know, nothing's set in stone, but I'll get with Holly, maybe we'll get these sent out for you guys to look at to see if you guys have any input on it and get back to us so we can adjust it as needed before we present it.
Cool. All right. Did I move on too fast? Everybody else on items? Okay. So committee reports? Busker?
I'm good.
Santo?
No committee report, just report on my meeting in Wall. They're going to be moving, sorry.
You're
They're going to
okay.
be moving forward with some plans to expand, obviously. I mentioned that before. And I'm going to be following up with that and going up to Wall and meeting with the growth committee up there. I think they've got some great ideas, and hopefully we're going to be open-minded to what Wall has planned in the future to expand so that they're not just relying on tourism to support their community.
Thank you. Commissioner LaCroix?
We had the extension board meeting last night, and like, as I said, we talked about, I think the members are gonna have to fill out an interest form and send them in by January, and I think they're gonna contact Holly. And that's brought, like, the application process again for me so we could review it, so. Some of the other meetings that I've attended, there's nothing really noteworthy to report, so.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Farabee, please.
Nothing.
Okay, a couple of things, just a reminder. There's a Fair Board Volunteers supper, and it looks real good that we all care about our volunteers. They save tons of money at the Fair Board with those volunteers that really are helpful in making the fairgrounds a success. That's October 11th, and they have invited this commission. And then the Fire Board and the firemen have this award ceremony October 14th, and I think they've worked, they worked their butts off this season. They always do, but this has been an exceptionally crazy season, and if we could, anybody that could go up there from this commission, it would be a good thing, a very positive thing for those firemen and emergency services, so. Any other discussion? If not, how about approval of the vouchers? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the vouchers.
Motion by Busker,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I've got to point out here that the sheriff, apparently Thome, $250 for a Dakota Territory pheasant hunt. What's that on there for? Anyway, I'm going to vote no, obviously. $1,000 for an ACA conference, whatever ACA stands for lodging and so on and so forth. We spend and spend and spend, and nobody's overseeing the spending, so I'll vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with 1 no from Commissioner Farabee. Items from the public. Yes, sir. Your turn. Come on up, sir.
You oversee it.
No, you come up, sir. That's what this time is for you to ask us questions or anything that you might need help with,
Nobody
that we can move forward with.
Preferred microphone?
Either one, sir.
Okay, my name is Harold Getz, and I just have a question. I think this might be in Mark DeSantos. I don't know if you're in my area or not. I live a mile south of New Underwood and a mile west of New Underwood.
That'd be my area.
Okay, my question is yesterday or over the weekend, I had an altercation where one of my cows was removed from adjacent to my southern property, and it ended up on a property next to me. I noticed that the animal was over there, so I contacted the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department came out and did an awesome job. They went on the property, they identified the animal. The animal was there. The owner of the property said that we could only access and return the animal by foot. And I understand that they have property rights and we have to respect their property. Well, me and the deputy, we went out and we attempted to run the animal off, but the animal had been run so hard by a pickup that it would not leave the property. And there are some other discerning factors. The animal had calved earlier towards this week, and the calf is not available for viewing. I mean, we can't find it. So I don't know what the situation where that was, but we have not located the calf. And the cow would not leave there, and that's kind of inherent when you have a cow-calf deal. If there's a baby there, the cow won't leave. Well, the cow wouldn't leave the area. So we dealt with that all the way through Sunday, I believe, and then yesterday morning, I went to the landowners, and while the deputy was there, I asked the landowner if they would please push the animal off of their property, and the deputy and I would return it to my property. They refused. They said, no, that's not their responsibility. After we dealt with that, they said, come back tomorrow because the wind is blowing today, and that's why the cow won't leave. We left. I went back yesterday morning while driving up the road because there was an animal on the road of 159th and 229th. I don't know if you're familiar with that area, but it's just outside of New Underwood. My wife was going to her job, and she said, there's an animal on the road. She said, so I thought that they had complied or during the night, and they pushed the cow off of their property. I drove up there, and they got very abusive and very attacking. And so I ended up calling the deputy again, and the deputy contacted them, and they said it was the situation still stood that in order for me to get my cow back, I had to walk onto their property by foot and get this animal. But I could bring people, or I could get a crew of people to assist me. So we did this, but previous for doing this, they took with their pickup and they ran the cow up and down their field. After this all got done, we eventually had done this for 2.5 hours. We had 2 deputies out there assisting this process, and we finally got the cow pushed off of their property. She took her pickup and ran the cow over, hit it, knocked it 30 feet ahead of her vehicle. The cow laid on the ground, got up, and limped back to another property, which is southeast of my property. Crawled through the fence and went out there. I have permission for the cow to be there. They're neighbors. We get along really great in that direction. The deputy, when I brought this to his attention, said that was a civil matter and that I needed to go to the commissioners to have this addressed. What I'm curious about is and this has happened, I think there's been 7 incidents where we've had this problem out there, where cattle get on their property and we end up having this terrible situation in order to return our livestock back to us. I wanted to talk to Mr. DeSanto, and I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know where direction. I called this morning and asked the deputy for an incident report. Basically, yesterday he said he did not want to do an incident report because he wanted it to just die. He wanted it to just go away. I don't know what we need to do in order to prevent situations from this problem. I don't know where to go.
You went to the right place, sir.
I don't know what to do.
But maybe we have some advice from the commissioners that, is it illegal? Is it something that we can do in Pennington County to change any rules or ordinances when, George, you're a rancher?
State statutes are quite clear on your responsibility as an owner and other person's responsibility. And obviously, I haven't read them in a couple of years, so I'm not real fresh on them, but I'd suggest you read the statutes.
We did. I had a brand inspector on the property.
But as far as handling the animal, they're supposed to declare a stray animal. And certainly it's abusive if what you're saying, and we're only getting your side, obviously, but.
Yes, I understand that.
But running the animal, that's certainly abusive and in violation of the state statute. But you've read the statutes.
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
we were in discussion with Mr. Bothwell, I believe, who is in charge of the state brand board. And it is required that if you have an animal on your property, as it was, and this is just the way I'm interpreting it. I'm not saying that I understand this law or know this law. That if you have an animal on your property that is stray, that you have to confine it and allow a brand inspector or an inspector of somebody of that nature to inspect the animal.
So George, if they're in violation of state statute, then where do you go to fix the issue and get your animal? Or, can you just legally then go get a deputy and get it?
Well, I'm going to lean real hard on the state's attorney,
I've
or
contacted
previous state's attorney.
I've contacted the state's attorney on this.
Is that a prosecutable deal?
It's definitely a case for a judge, and we're not judges.
Yeah, I understand, but
I'm not
would the state's
asking
attorney
for-
take it?
Hold on, guys.
No.
I'm sorry.
You're okay.
Sorry.
No, you're
State's
okay.
attorney will only take it if it's a crime, and maybe running into the cow may be a crime, destruction of private property.
Yeah. Sounds like you just have a bad neighbor and there needs to be something.
Fix your fence.
Yep.
I did fix my fence. I went home to my fence yesterday, sir, and on the northwest corner of my property,
Got it.
somebody had went out there and let all 4 wires down, removed the stays back 6 wires. I know they're not gonna do that right now because it's muddy out there. Thank God, we got 35/100ths of an inch of rain last night. We've had no rain out in that area.
I tend to agree with the deputy who you talked to. at some point, it becomes a civil matter. I
I
mean,
asked-
and I understand you're asking for some direction from the commission, but really, I think Ron said it right. A judge has got to make decisions, and you have to go through those. You know, there is a few things, I think you think.
I'll have to reread the statutes, but I think it's a Class 2 misdemeanor.
But to tell somebody to just go away,
I think
that's
it's a
not
misdemeanor, right?
appropriate. What they need to do is do the incident report so you have something on file and then move forward to the court case. So there needs to be something that that deputy does need to put all those times he's came out there and then what has happened in those times for you. Because when you go to court, you're gonna have to have a witness with that, so.
I have 7 witnesses that were standing there while she intentionally drove out of her driveway and drove over the cow on the county road.
There
And
you go.
he-
So what we're saying is, with those issues, sir, there's a court case moving forward on this.
Okay, how do I get the deputy to write an incident report?
My advice would be go to the sheriff and tell him that the county commission sent you over there to get a report.
From the deputy of all the incidents and the times he was there with you, sir. You have our permission, sounds like.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest too. Go to the sheriff and say the commissioners want this sheriff's deputy to make a report on all of his observations of that incident, because
Because
obviously.
7 people wanted to sign affidavits to the deal yesterday, and he drove off.
The more affidavits you can get and notarize, the better off you'll be when it goes to court.
Yes,
The
sir.
one who has the most paperwork usually wins.
All right.
So we appreciate you.
Pictures wouldn't hurt either.
Like I said, I just don't know. I'm asking for direction, and thank
Nope.
you very much for your time.
We gave you some, and sir, we don't mind you coming up here and visiting and trying to get direction from us as well, so.
Mr. DeSanto, may I contact you if I have any more
Absolutely.
questions? Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
You have a good day, sir. Next, at executive session, Holly, do we have an executive session still?
Are we done with items from the public? I guess you already asked.
Sir? Hold on just a second.
Yeah, we do have executive session.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Okay, and that would be A or B, please?
That's personnel matters.
Personnel issue per SDCL 1-25-2-1, motion to go in an executive session. Moved by Buskerud, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Second by DeSanto, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We'll wait for Nick for a second.
What is going on in this country? 59 now is what I heard this morning.
59 got Las Vegas.
Plus 200, or 500?
400 to 500 injured. Of course, a lot of them might have been during the stampede.
Yeah.
Well, say anything on here you can be quoted on, guys.
Interviewing, and they said
Did I say that?
okay.
Shrapnel?
Okay, guys. Miss.
Did you make a motion to come out
Yes,
already?
we're
Okay.
out, sir.
The motion that we'd be looking for today is to authorize the chairperson's signature on the personnel document as discussed in executive session.
Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Motion by DeSanto?
Second.
Second by Commissioner LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay. One no by Commissioner